Chapter 1057. Miss Zhang, Zhang Jiao. Miss Zhang quickly stood in front of Gu Yundong and the other woman. The dimples on her face were especially eye-catching and playful. She smiled and held Lu Yan's arm. Unexpectedly, she saw Gu Yundong standing at the side. Zhang Jiao blinked in surprise. This is... Look at me, I almost forgot to introduce you. This is Gu Yundong, Miss Gu. Lu Yan smiled and said to Gu Yundong, this is Miss Zhang, Zhang Jiao. Zhang Jiao was stunned. She looked at Gu Yundong in confusion. Miss Gu? Is she from the Gu family in the north of the city? As far as she knew, there was only one family in the county with the surname Gu. However, she had seen the girl from that family before. Why did Gu Yundong look so unfamiliar? A trace of embarrassment flashed across Lu Yan's face as she said in a low voice, no. Gu Yundong, on the other hand, was very calm. I have nothing to do with the Gu family in the north of the city. I'm just a country girl. I happen to know Sister Lu, so I followed her out to see the world. Zhang Jiao was stunned. She sized Gu Yundong up from head to toe for a while before saying, Miss Gu doesn't look like a country girl at all. With her appearance and bearing, I would believe that she's the daughter of an official. Haha. Lu Yan covered her mouth and laughed. You know how to talk. Zhang Jiao was displeased. I'm telling the truth. With that, she ran over to Gu Yundong. Miss Gu, this is your first time coming to my house, right? Let's go, I'll show you around. Gu Yundong nodded and the three of them walked towards the backyard. Zhang Jiao was very cheerful and lively. As the host, she had been talking non-stop along the way. When they reached the reception hall, she led the two of them to sit down. Come sit. Come and try my brother's new venison today. There were already many dishes on the table. The dazzling array of dishes was very sumptuous. Zhang Jiao took good care of Gu Yundong. Afraid that she would be too polite, she kept urging her to eat first. Gu Yundong could only smile politely, indicating that she could do it herself. After the meal, Gu Yundong's forehead was covered in sweat. She didn't have much of an impression of Zhang Jiao. She just felt that she was too enthusiastic. As for being fierce, only Lu Wei felt that way, right? After dinner, Zhang Jiao brought them around the Zhang residence. Halfway through, young Master Zhang Hao and young Master Zhang sent word that they would invite everyone over to play pitchpot. Lu Yan blinked at Gu Yundong and whispered, this is a chance for the two of them to meet and talk. With that, she immediately agreed. Sure, I like pitchpot. Before I was married, I was one of the top girls in this county. Zhang Jiao became excited. Really? Sister Lu is so powerful? Then she looked at Gu Yundong. What about Miss Gu? Do you know how to play? I've never played it before. I'm just watching. She had never played pitchpot before. All this time, she had a lot of things to do. When it came to entertainment, she mostly spent time in drawing, playing chess, and playing puzzles with her younger siblings. Pitchpot? First time playing. Zhang Jiao smiled. It's fine. I'll teach you. It's very simple. Therefore, the group of people excitedly arrived at a courtyard of the Zhang residence and saw Zhang Hao and Lu Wei chatting and laughing. Upon seeing Zhang Jiao, Lu Wei jumped up reflexively and immediately took 2 steps back. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1058. Miss Gus. First time Lu Wei narrowed her eyes and shot him a warning glance. Only then did Lu Wei try his best to restrain his urge to escape. However, he quickly turned his head slightly and looked at Gu Yundong. His gaze was filled with condemnation. It was as if he was saying, I asked you here to help, but you actually dragged me down and made friends with them. You're not human. Gu Yundong looked up at the sky. The weather was good today. Other than Lu Wei and Zhang Hao, there were also a few servants in the courtyard. It looked very lively. Zhang Hao was Zhang Jiao's brother. It was said that he was 5 years older than her. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes and was quite energetic. Seeing the three of them coming over, Zhang Hao hurriedly greeted them. You're finally here. Jiao, come over and help big brother. You've always been good at pitchpot. Let Lu Wei see it so that he won't think that he's invincible. Quick, help big brother defeat him. As she spoke, she pushed Lu Wei again. Compete with my sister. If you lose to her, you have to return the money you won from me just now. Jiao, you have to fight for me. Zhang Jiao frowned. Brother, you're actually gambling? It's just for fun. It's just 10 or 20 taels. Anyway, we're family. What does it matter? Hurry up and help me win back the silver. Zhang Jiao glared at him helplessly and took a few steps forward. Lu Wei was not happy. He moved to the side, straightened his neck, and said, No, I'm a man and she's a woman. If I compete with her, it would be unfair if I win. The problem was that if he lost, he would lose all his face. Zhang Jiao raised her eyebrows. How do you know that you will definitely win? She was provoking him, but Lu Wei did not respond at all. In any case, I can't. If I compete with a woman, won't I be bullying her? Absolutely not. He shook his head repeatedly. Lu Yen, who was not far away, was almost angered to death by him. Everyone present could tell that Zhang Hao had deliberately made the suggestion to create an opportunity for the two of them to interact. But he actually hid far away? Lu Wei didn't agree, and the scene became a little awkward. Zhang Hao laughed. Forget it. Looks like I can only do it myself. After saying that, he rolled up his sleeves and came forward, throwing an arrow into the pot. Lu Yen could only put in more effort to liven up the atmosphere. She was the second to come forward. Speaking of which, I haven't played in a long time. My hands are rusty. If I can't shoot accurately later, don't laugh at me, okay? After so many times, this matter was finally resolved. Lu Wei was a playful person to begin with. Although he was unwilling to get along with Zhang Jiao, he became excited when everyone started to have fun. The four of them took 2 turns. Zhang Hao could not help but look up at Gu Yundong, who was sitting in the pavilion. He smiled and said, Miss Gu, why are you only drinking tea? Come along. The 3 girls can compete to see who's the best. Zhang Jiao hurriedly said, No, Miss Gu has never played this before. This is the first time. Then she said to Gu Yundong, Let's not listen to eldest brother. He'll teach you how to play first. It's boring to compete. Zhang Hao waved his hand. You're good at playing by yourself, but there's no need to teach others. He'll teach you. Miss Gu will definitely like it after learning this. Next time, you don't have to sit there alone and be bored. Lu Wei frowned. Why were the 2 of them joining in the fun? The Gu girl was not familiar with them. What was there to teach? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1059, Gu Yundong crushes them. He was here, and Big Sis was here. Was it their turn? Lu Wei jumped into the pavilion in 2 or 3 steps. Ignore them. Just sit here and eat snacks and drink tea. Speaking of which, their snacks are not bad. After all, they were in the snack business. Gu Yundong was silent for a moment before saying in a low voice, I remember you telling me in the carriage when you came. You once told Miss Zhang my name, right? Lu Wei nodded, but he looked confused. Yes, why? Gu Yundong smiled. Nothing. She stood up and walked out of the pavilion. She didn't know if the 2 siblings saw that Lu Wei's attitude toward her was different, but they looked a little unhappy now. Lu Yen couldn't help but hold her forehead. This silly little brother. Gu Yundong walked in front of Zhang Hao and took out an arrow from the basket beside him. He said, There's no need to teach me. I saw that you guys played 2 rounds just now and have roughly learned it. Zhang Hao quickly came back to his senses and said with a smile, It's not something that can be learned just by looking at it. You don't know, although this pitch pot looks simple, it requires agility. The angle has to be chosen well, and the wrist has to be exerted, the eyes. With a bang, the arrow in Gu Yundong's hand flew forward and went straight into the pot. Zhang Hao, Zhang Jiao, Lu Yen, Lu Wei said, All right. Clap, 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 clap. Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. Zhang Hao, who was beside him, quickly applauded. Miss Gu is too awesome. She must have been lucky. Gu Yundong picked up another arrow and threw it in with a bang. Good. Lu Wei continued to cheer excitedly. She did not want to look at her annoying brother. Fortunately, she still had Lu Yi at home. If he could inherit the family business in the future, the Lu family would not be declined just like that. Zhang Hao frowned slightly, but he quickly relaxed. Bang, 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 bang. Following that, there were a few more soft sounds. After that, the arrows were all in the pitch pot without exception. At this moment, everyone present was surprised. The pitch pot looked simple, but Zhang Hao was right. Skill was really important. They admitted that their skills were not bad, but it was not to the point where they did not miss a single shot. Even if it was them, it was impossible for them to not miss a single one of the 7 or 8 arrows in a row. Bang, bang, bang. Gu Yundong nodded in satisfaction. Not bad. Other than Lu Wei, who had a proud and excited expression on his face, everyone else in the courtyard had wooden expressions. Zhang Jiao took a while to find her voice. Miss Gu, is this really your first time playing? Gu Yundong nodded seriously. It's true. I never lie. Lu Wei secretly pursed his lips. Shouldn't you be honest with yourself? Gu Yundong rubbed her wrist and continued, You also know that I'm just a country bumpkin. I've done too much farm work at home. I'm strong and my wrist is strong. That's why I didn't miss any of them. Is that so? Zhang Jiao was stunned. She looked at her, then lowered her eyes to look at her wrist. Gu Yundong's expression was serious. That must be the case. Zhang Hao was so shocked that he could not say a word just now. Now, he finally said dryly, So there are such benefits to doing farm work. Looks like I should go to the field to train. Young Master Zhang, that's a good idea. Gu Yundong agreed. Zhang Hao laughed dryly again. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1060. Have you fallen for Gu Yundong? Gu Yundong had thrown the arrows once, and almost crushed everyone present. When she continued to play, no one called her. However, Zhang Hao and Zhang Jiao still came to her side from time to time to ask about her well-being, as if they were afraid that as the host, they would neglect her. Gu Yundong also responded with a smile and continued to drink tea and eat snacks. Lu Wei's words made sense. The Zhang family's snacks were indeed not bad. However, after eating and drinking too much, she could not control her physiological reaction. Gu Yundong saw that the others were playing and did not notice her. She called the maidservant beside her and asked her to lead the way to the toilet. The maidservant quickly responded and led her out of the pavilion. After walking out of the courtyard and making 2 more turns, the maidservant stopped. Gu Yundong entered the outhouse. The maidservant was waiting outside. However, when Gu Yundong came out, the servant girl was nowhere to be seen. Gu Yundong could not help but rub her chin. Was the Zhang family going to do the same thing as the Feng family? Was it so dangerous to go to the toilet in a rich family? Could she be killed after going in and coming out? It couldn't be, right? She didn't have any deep hatred with the Zhang family. It was her first time meeting them, so she was very flustered. Gu Yundong stood at the same spot for a long time, but the servant girl still did not come. Forget it, she still knew the way. She raised her foot and slowly took a small step forward. Just like when they came, Gu Yundong turned 2 corners. Just as she was about to reach the courtyard, a voice suddenly came from the corner. She didn't want to stop, really, even if the speaker happened to mention her name. However, if she didn't stop, she would directly bump into him. It would be a pity if the person who spoke couldn't finish his sentence. Thus, Gu Yundong leaned against the wall and listened quietly to the voices around the corner behind him. Did you notice that Miss Gus's appearance is actually the most outstanding among the 3 of them? I did. She's indeed good-looking, but I heard that she's just a village girl. So what if she's a village girl? Even if she's a village girl, she's still better than us servants. She's even better than the person who spoke suddenly lowered her voice. She's even better than our young madam. That's true. Young madam's health is too poor. She's lying on the bed sickly all day. Young master doesn't even go to her room now. Speaking of young master, did you notice just now? Young master seems to treat that Miss Gu very differently. That's right. I can see it too. Eldest young master is especially enthusiastic about taking care of Miss Gu. From time to time, he would look at Miss Gu as if he was afraid of neglecting her. He even asked us to heat up the tea and snacks. In the entire courtyard, Miss Gu is the only one eating and drinking. Isn't young master asking us to bring hot food for her? Also, just now, young master said that he wanted to personally teach Miss Gu. In the past, when Miss asked young master to teach her, young master was very impatient. Do you think young master is interested in Miss Gu? I've never seen young master so concerned about someone. Sigh, so what if he's interested? With young madam around, it's impossible for young master to marry her. Who said it's impossible? The person who spoke suddenly became excited, but he tried his best to suppress it, as if he was about to say a shocking secret. Let me tell you, I just heard some incredible news yesterday. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1061. Solicitous, what news? Didn't young madam vomit blood yesterday? Dr. Lu came to the residence to treat her. At that time, he comforted young madam and said that she was fine as long as she took her medicine on time. However, the moment she went out, she sighed at young master and said that young madam probably doesn't have many months to live. What? The person who heard this exclaimed and quickly covered her mouth. She asked softly, Are you serious? It's true. At that time, I was leading the way for Dr. Lu and happened to hear it. Young master gave an order on the spot not to let anyone know. It was because you were close to me that I told you. I promise I won't say it. But this way, young master might also marry Miss Gu? I think it's possible. Young master is very concerned about Miss Gu. That's not right. If young madam is really gone, young master will have to wait at least a year or two before he remarries. You don't understand, do you? As long as our young master brings Miss Gu into the house before the young madam dies, and then helps her become the young madam, it won't be a big deal. But what? But she's from a small family. Even if our young master likes her and wants to help her become his first wife, master and madam won't agree, right? That's true. Old master and madam would definitely prefer to find a suitable match for young master. Unfortunately, Miss Gu doesn't have any advantage. If she did, our old master would still be easy to talk to. That's right. Back then, young madam's family relied on a pastry recipe to get master to agree to the marriage between the two families. Miss Gu doesn't have any recipes. It's useless to say anything more. I am not talking to you anymore. I still have to change the tea. The tea is cold. Then, Gu Yundong heard rustling sounds and the two of them walked further and further away. She closed her eyes slightly and leaned against the wall, wanting to laugh. Did he really treat her as an insensible country girl? She stood on the spot again. As expected, footsteps sounded again after a while. Immediately after, the servant girl who had led the way earlier hurried over. Miss Gu, so you're here. I'm really sorry. I saw that old Madame Wang was carrying some heavy things just now, so I helped her carry them over. When I came back, I didn't see Mississippi. I thought that Miss hadn't come out, so I waited outside. After a long time, I realized that something was wrong and quickly came over. This explanation, Gu Yundong smiled. It's all right. Let's go. We've been delayed for a long time. Yes, of course. Young master and the others must be anxious. The two of them returned to the courtyard one after another. They saw that the four of them had stopped playing pitch-pot and were sitting in the pavilion chatting. Zhang Hao was the first to see her. He immediately stood up and said, Miss Gu, you're back. The kitchen has just made a new snack. Miss Gu, would you like to try it? Gu Yundong walked to her seat and sat down. On her left was Lu Yen, and on her right was Zhang Jiao. Zhang Jiao smiled and picked up a snack for her. Try it. This is delicious. It cost a lot of white sugar. Gu Yundong took a bite. Yes, it was a little greasy. They had indeed spent a lot of sugar. She didn't say much and watched the others talk and laugh. Zhang Hao looked at her from time to time, but Gu Yundong just lowered her head and pretended not to see it. It was not until Lu Yen saw that it was getting late and was about to leave that she stood up. Zhang Hao and his sister sent them out of the house. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1062. What's wrong? After getting into the carriage, Lu Wei slumped in his seat. Lu Yan hit him and ignored him. She turned around and asked Gu Yundong, "How is it?" "Miss Zhang isn't as fierce as Lu Wei said, right? She's just a little enthusiastic. You're not scared, are you?" Gu Yundong shook her head and leaned against the wall of the carriage. "I'm just a little tired." Tired? Lu Yan was stunned. Although they had spent most of the afternoon playing pitch-pot, other than the 10 arrows, Gu Yundong had not moved at all. She practically sat in the pavilion and ate. Although they had been chatting for the latter half of the day, it was not to the extent of saying that she was tired, right? Lu Yan seemed to have thought of something and quickly asked, "What do you think is wrong with Miss Zhang?" Lu Wei immediately perked up when he heard this. What's wrong? It was as if he would immediately break off the engagement if Gu Yundong said anything bad. It seemed that he was indeed against this marriage. Gu Yundong and Lu Yan looked at him with dark expressions. After a while, Lu Yan rubbed her forehead. "You're already an adult. Can you be more sensible? This is a huge matter about marriage. If I had been more sensible, I would have married Miss Zhang." Gu Yundong shook her head and said to Lu Yan, "Let's go back to the Lu residence first." Lu Wei still wanted to ask, but she glared at him, so he could only wait patiently. After all, Gu Yundong had just said that he was tired. Although she might be mentally tired, he could not force her anymore. What if Heyuan found out and felt that his wife was being bullied? The carriage headed towards the Lu residence. Although Gu Yundong did not say anything else, Lu Yan still lowered her eyes and began to think. She recalled today's situation and wanted to see if there was anything wrong. However, when the carriage stopped at the entrance of the Lu residence, Lu Yan still felt that Zhang Jiao's words were a little too loud and enthusiastic. Everything else was normal. The three of them entered the main door and walked all the way to the central room. Old Master Lu and Heyuan were talking. The two of them were now businessmen, so they naturally had many common topics to talk about. In addition, Old Master Lu felt that Heyuan was smart and considerate, especially when compared to his son. Hence, he liked this young man more. Seeing them return, Old Master Lu still looked like he had not had enough. However, he immediately stood up and looked at his daughter before turning to Gu Yundong. "How was it? Did you have a good time?" Lu Wei felt that he was probably not a biological son. Seeing that his father did not look at him at all, he simply went to talk to Heyuan. Gu Yundong sat down and took a sip of tea before starting to talk about what she had said and done when she first entered the Zhang residence. She described everything until she left the courtyard and went to the toilet. Old Master Lu nodded. "In that case, Miss Zhang is not bad. She's warm and considerate." He looked at Lu Wei. "Did you hear that? Even the Gu girl has a good evaluation of Miss Zhang. Hurry up and pack up to get married." Lu Wei exploded. "Father, are you deaf? When did she say that Miss Zhang is not bad?" Old Master Lu was speechless. It seemed that she had not come to a conclusion. He paused and turned to look at Gu Yundong. The latter asked Lu Wei, "Can't you tell what's wrong?" Lu Wei blinked, then blinked again with a blank expression. Just as Gu Yundong sighed and gave up on him, this fellow suddenly jumped 3 feet high. "I understand." He instantly became smug. "When I met Miss Zhang in the past, I told her Gu Yundong's name. She clearly knew it, but she still deliberately asked if you were from the Gu family in the north of the city. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1063. The Zhang family's good plan. Old Master Lu was stunned and frowned. She did it on purpose to embarrass Yundong? She clearly knew that Yundong was not from a rich family, but she still deliberately mentioned the Gu family in the north of the city, as if she was waiting for Gu Yundong to say that she was a country bumpkin. Gu Yundong said, "Actually, this doesn't matter. She might have misunderstood my relationship with Lu Wei. She's a little vain and wants to teach me a lesson. Humans can't be perfect. It's not a big deal to have some small thoughts." At that time, Gu Yundong really did not think much of it. Even when they were eating, Zhang Jiao kept introducing all kinds of delicious dishes, as if Gu Yundong was just a country girl who had no experience, but she did not make it too obvious. At least, at that time, Lu Yen, who was sitting at the same table, only sighed at how enthusiastic she was. Until they saw Zhang Hao. What's wrong with meeting Zhang Hao? Lu Yen had always felt that she was quite intelligent. Others had also praised her for being smart. But now that she heard Gu Yundong's words, she realized that she had overlooked these details. At the mention of Zhang Hao, Gu Yundong sneered. Zhang Jiao wanted to matchmake me with Zhang Hao. What did you say? Heyuan, who had been silent all this while, was the first to frown. Lu Wei was also shocked. After the shock, he silently shrank his presence to prevent Heyuan from blaming him. Why did she want to matchmake you and young Master Zhang? Lu Yen was a little curious. If she really looks down on your identity, why did she? It's probably for sugar. Besides, she didn't want Zhang Hao to marry me as his first wife. It'll just be a concubine. It's not a loss for their family to exchange the identity of a concubine for the sugar. The Zhang family was in the pastry business and needed too much white sugar. However, Gus could sold 5 caddies at a time. How could it satisfy their appetite? However, everyone in Feng County knew that the Gu family's sugar was dedicated to the emperor. With the emperor's decree, no one in the county dared to have any designs on the sugar. However, this did not mean that they could not have designs on Gu Yundong. Now, other than the imperial court, only the Gu family could do the white sugar business. As long as Gu Yundong became a member of the Zhang family, the white sugar business would naturally belong to the Zhang family. This Zhang family had a good plan. Moreover, the 2 whispering people had specially mentioned that the young madam did not have many months left to live. They gave Gu Yundong some pressure and let her know that if she wanted to marry into the Zhang family and become the young madam of the Zhang family, it was best to become the young master's concubine as soon as possible. Gu Yundong was speechless. Why was the Zhang family so sure that she would fall for Zhang Hao? Just because he was the eldest young master of the Zhang family? Old Master Lu frowned when he heard that. Old Master Zhang's business ability was average and he had some small problems, but as an in-law, there was no big problem. But his children, especially Zhang Jiao. It was fine even if she had some tricks up her sleeve. He did not care. However, she could not be too unreliable. Lu Wei was already unreliable enough. Even if his future wife wasn't too smart, she should know her limits. Since Zhang Jiao knew that Gu Yundong's family was in the sugar business, she would definitely know that she was engaged. She went to matchmake a girl who was engaged to be her brother's concubine? And she even used her sister-in-law as a raft. She simply didn't know what was going on. Moreover, anyone with a discerning eye could tell that Gu Yundong had a close relationship with the Lu family. Yet, she had to offend Gu Yundong. Not only could such a person not help Lu Wei, but she would also drag him down. Gu Yundong saw that old Master Lu knew what he was doing, so she added, "Uncle Lu, why don't you spend more time to find out more about Zhang Jiao's personality and the Zhang family's plans?" Gu Yundong was still very concerned about Tao Yan's expression when he asked about the Zhang family. Old Master Lu nodded. He thought so too. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1064. Shocking result. Lu Wei was very happy to hear that. Judging from his father's words, there was no follow-up to his marriage with Zhang Jiao. However, before old Master Lu found out the results, this marriage had to continue. However, no one expected that after more than a month, the results of old Master Liu's investigation would be so shocking. Not only was Zhang Jiao unreliable, but her personality was also not fierce, but vicious. The reason why the young madam of the Zhang family was bedridden was because Zhang Jiao had poisoned her. And the reason was actually because Zhang Jiao and Zhang Hao slept together and disrupted the social rules. This was a huge amount of information. When old Master Lu found out, he almost couldn't breathe. His fingers trembled. The Zhang family actually wanted to marry such a lousy thing to the Lu family and become the wife of his precious son? Old Master Lu was trembling with anger, but he still continued to investigate. As expected, Zhang Jiao was not the daughter of the Zhang family at all. She was the illegitimate daughter of Mrs. Zhang's brother, who was afraid that the tigress at home would find out, so he lied and said that she was Mrs. Zhang's daughter. He gave old Master Zhang some benefits and raised Zhang Jiao in the Zhang family since she was young. It was not until Zhang Jiao and Zhang Hao's affair was exposed that old Master Zhang and Madame Zhang could not wait to arrange a marriage for Zhang Jiao. Of course, Zhang Jiao was unwilling at first. She wanted to reveal her identity and marry Zhang Hao openly. However, she was dreaming. How could old Master Zhang and his wife agree? She was just an illegitimate daughter. Not to mention how revealing her identity would affect Mrs. Zhang's brother. Zhang Hao already had an official wife. With Zhang Jiao's identity, she could at most be a concubine. However, Zhang Jiao was unwilling, so she poisoned young Madame Zhang. Old Master Zhang almost beat her to death when he found out. It was Mrs. Zhang who stopped him in time because she was his niece and had been raised since she was young. However, Zhang Jiao could not stay in the Zhang family no matter what. Zhang Jiao also knew that after the matter was exposed, she could only marry out. Now, old Master Zhang could still listen to Madame Zhang and choose a good marriage for her. If he waited until the day he got impatient, she might even be given to an old man as a concubine. Under Mrs. Zhang's persuasion and Zhang Hao's comfort, Zhang Jiao finally agreed to get married. In any case, even if she could not become husband and wife with Zhang Hao, they didn't have to be together day and night if they truly loved each other. When she married into a rich family, she would give birth to Zhang Hao's child and let this child inherit all the assets of that family. Wouldn't that be killing two birds with one stone? What was even more unacceptable to old Master Lu was that old Master Zhang's choice from the start was Tao Yan of the Tao family. The third young master of the Tao family was the eldest son of the Tao family. However, old Master Lu knew about the Tao family's trivia in the past. He knew that Tao Yan was abandoned by the Tao family. At least in old Master Liu's heart, Tao Yan was much more respected than his Lu Wei. He was old Master Liu's eldest son. Although he was unruly, he had always been doted on. He had grown up safely in the Lu family. He was capable of literature and martial arts and had a wide range of friends. He was not bad at all. However, Tao Yan didn't want Zhang Jiao. Instead, he couldn't wait to engage his son to this woman. Old Master Lu almost spat out a mouthful of blood, but this was his own fault. This was because his standards for his daughter-in-law had been exposed by someone. Many people in the county knew that he wanted to find a fierce daughter-in-law to suppress his son. Therefore, Zhang Jiao walked towards this persona. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1065. He wants to get married. Old Master Lu was angry and regretful. It was all his fault for being too anxious. In the end, he let such an ignorant person have designs on the Lu residence. He couldn't help but rejoice that Lu Wei didn't take a fancy to that girl and even made a request to keep the engagement a secret for the time being. Otherwise, if such a thing happened, the Zhang family's reputation, or Zhang Jiao's, would suffer the heavier blow. However, the Lu family was also in trouble. Lu Wei would also be criticized. This marriage was definitely going to be called off. Not only was the marriage called off, but the Zhang family could not be let off so easily. Did he really think that the Lu family was easy to bully? He actually treated them as fools. If old Master Lu did not vent his anger, his surname would not be Lu. Of course, this was all in the future. At this moment, although old Master Lu did not have a good impression of Zhang Jiao, he did not hate her so much. He was grateful to Gu Yundong. It was right to let you go to the Zhang family. But Gu girl, according to what you said, Zhang Hao also has designs on you. You have to be careful. Don't worry. They're still hoping that he'll take the initiative to be his concubine. Such a beautiful thing can only be done in their dreams. Besides, we'll be returning to the Prefectural city in a few days. When we return, he'll be married to brother Xiao. Heyuan, who was at the side, had an extremely ugly expression when he heard Zhang Hao's plan. He was thinking about whether to put him in a sack and beat him up or throw him into the water. Unexpectedly, when he suddenly heard Gu Yundong talk about marriage, the gloom in his heart was instantly swept away. He turned around and looked at her with a gentle gaze. That's right, they were about to get married. It was fine if that Zhang fellow retreated in the face of difficulties. If he still did not give up and wanted to approach them, it would be a light punishment for Heyuan to break the man's limbs. At the side, Lu Wei touched his arm. They made him feel mushy. However, for some reason he suddenly felt a trace of envy. For the first time in his life, the man who had been single for nearly 20 years and was extremely repulsed by marriage and wished he could eat, drink, and have fun for the rest of his life had the thought of finding a wife. It seemed like it was not bad to have wife and children. When he had a wife, he would bring her out every day to show off their love. He would tell everyone that their relationship was very, very good. He would make those men who did not have a wife envious and jealous. He wanted them to hate him but could not get rid of him. Just thinking about it made him happy. Well, the next time his father asked him to go on a blind date, he would reluctantly go and take a look. He would not refuse. However, at this moment, old Master Lu sighed in his heart. Fate was indeed something that could not be forced. Perhaps his son's love had yet to arrive, so he did not have to be so anxious. He would think about it when his son wanted to get married. Seeing that it was getting late, Gu Yundong and Heyuan bade farewell and left the Lu residence. After getting into the carriage, Gu Yundong took out the handkerchief from her sleeve. Facing Heyuan's puzzled gaze, she told him about her encounter with Tao Yen and Peng Zhongfei at Jinxiu restaurant. Heyuan was surprised. So, this handkerchief was originally mine? Old Li didn't change the clothes and accessories on Tao Yen and me? Yes, it must be yours. Gu Yundong nodded. And according to Peng Zhongfei, this handkerchief is very rare and precious. Since your family put such a rare handkerchief on you and use it as an ordinary handkerchief, they must dote on you very much. Heyuan suddenly tightened his grip on his handkerchief, and his lowered eyelids trembled slightly. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1066. Does Old Li have an enemy? Gu Yundong saw it and suddenly felt sorry for him. Sure enough, Brother Xiao was very concerned about this. She reached out and grabbed his large palm. Her fingers intertwined with his and held onto it tightly. Heyuan raised his head and hugged her. He rubbed his chin gently on her hair. I'm fine. Big Brother Xiao, Old Man Li might have a grudge against your family. That's why he carried you away and tortured you like this. However, if your family is powerful, why would Old Man Li, an illiterate farmer, be involved? Heyuan said, let's go back and ask Li Dunzi. Gu Yundong nodded. When the carriage drove into Yongfu village, the sky was already a little dark. When they arrived at the Gu residence, the two of them got out of the carriage and went straight to second brother Li's house. Li Dunzi and Madame Du had been very happy these past 2 days. Their son was married, and Heyuan and Gu Yundong came to congratulate them. The villagers' attitude towards them instantly changed. Even Madame Du's maternal family became much more affectionate. Especially today, they wanted her to talk to Heyuan so that their family could cut the queue and come over in advance for the vaccination. Madame Du didn't dare to agree to such a request. Her maternal family didn't know, but she knew very well. Heyuan and the others gave her face because of that handkerchief. Hence, she found an excuse to reject them selflessly. When Heyuan and the others came in, Madame Du was feeding the chickens. Hearing a familiar voice coming from the door, she thought that she had heard wrongly. It took a while for him to react and hurriedly went out to welcome her. Why are you here? We want to ask you something. Gu Yundong looked behind her but did not see Li Dunzi. Madame Du was smart and quickly invited the two of them in. She said, my husband is in the house. Come in and drink some water. Li Dunzi sat there happily eating peanuts. When he saw the two of them enter, he was shocked. After the few of them entered the house, Madame Du closed the door. Heyuan asked, do you know who Old Li has a grudge against? Li Dunzi and his wife were surprised. A grudge? Although Old Li's thoughts were a little complicated and hurt Heyuan in the dark, at least to outsiders, he looked like an honest and amiable old man. He was quite popular in Yongfu village. Hence, both of them shook their heads. I've never heard of my father having a grudge against anyone. All these years, he hadn't even argued with the villagers. Gu Yundong frowned. Actually, Xiao Qingyuan also knew this. She thought for a moment and changed the question. Then do you know that he left Fengkai County in the past and went to the prefectural city? Or even further, like the capital? Madame Du widened her eyes. The capital? No way. Why did he go so far away? My father-in-law was just a farmer. How could he go to the capital? That's the capital. Who would dare to go without some money? She shook her head vehemently, thinking it impossible. Madame Du had only been to the county city at most. She had never even been to the prefectural city. She felt that the capital was on the horizon. It was too far away, so far that she could only hear this name in her life. On the other hand, Li Dunzi frowned slightly, as if he was in deep thought. His silence made Gu Yundong and Xiao Qingyuan look at him. Madame Du asked in surprise, "Honey, why did you think for so long? Could it be that father-in-law really went to the capital? Was he that powerful?" Li Dunzi shook his head. "I don't know. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1067. Very strange. Just as Gu Yundong was about to be disappointed, she heard him say, "Although I don't know if my father went to the capital, he was indeed in the prefectural city." He scratched his head and tried his best to recall what had happened decades ago. "My mother told us that my father was a peddler before he got married. He went to the prefectural city for business. After he got married, he stopped being a peddler. However, he would go out to look for work when he had spare time, but he didn't look for work in the county city like the villagers. He almost always went to the prefectural city, so he wouldn't be at home for 2 to 3 months. As for whether he went to the capital, even my mother didn't know. He would not be home for 2 to 3 months? If he rode a horse faster, it was not impossible for him to make a trip to the capital and come back. Then, was he not at home before he carried Brother Xiao back?" Li Dunzi knew this. He nodded. He was indeed not around. He went to the prefectural city. At that time, we were all grown up and had children. Back then, the 3 of us even asked Father to bring us to the prefectural city to make a fortune, but Father didn't agree and left alone. In that case, Xiao Qingyuan might really have been carried over from somewhere else. As for whether it was the capital or not, that was still to be verified. Old man Li did not seem to be close to his 3 sons. He had never brought any of his sons to the prefectural city. This person was really strange. Gu Yundong and Xiao Qingyuan walked out of second brother Li's house. The 2 of them did not speak along the way. There was a vast sea of people, and their only target seemed to be the capital. At the very least, they had to know what kind of people had this kind of fabric and whose surname was Xiao. There were few pieces of such fabric, so there were always traces. Xiao Qingyuan held her hand. "There's no hurry. Take your time. It had been 20 years. It definitely wouldn't be that easy." "Yes." Gu Yundong exhaled. No matter what, it was good to have a direction. The 2 of them chatted as they walked. When they reached the entrance of the Gu residence, they realized that Chen Liang was already waiting there. When he saw them return, he quickly welcomed them with a happy smile. Gu Yundong asked, "Uncle Chen, why are you here? Did everything go smoothly today? Did those people cause trouble for you?" As they spoke, they led Chen Liang through the door. Chen Liang immediately waved his hand. No. When they heard that Qingyuan was not around, they left. "Don't worry, everything went smoothly today. I came over to tell you so that you wouldn't worry. However, I think they will come again tomorrow." "It's fine. Brother Xiao and I will go into the mountains to pick herbs tomorrow morning." Chen Liang nodded. "That's good." He also talked about the vaccination today. Some people in the village had already been vaccinated. There were 5 or 6 people in the Gu family's workshop who had already been vaccinated. The production in the workshop could not stop, so it was impossible to vaccinate everyone at once. They could only do it in batches. 5 or 6 people per batch. Anyway, the workers in the Gu family workshop were not worried. Xiao Qingyuan would not treat Gu Yundong's people badly, right? Therefore, compared to the anxious villagers in the village, they were much calmer. They continued to stick to their posts conscientiously until it was their turn. It was all thanks to Tong An's leadership that they trusted the Gu family so much. Gu Yundong trusted Tong An more and more. Chen Liang did not leave after explaining the situation in the village. He looked at Gu Yundong hesitantly. Yundong, there's another private matter that I need your help with. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1068. Niu Dan brother, Lu Dan. Gu Yundong smiled. Uncle Chen, you don't have to be so polite. If there's anything you need, just say it. It'll definitely help if I can. It's like this. Chen Liang was still a little embarrassed. You also know that Niu Dan brother, Lu Dan, used to study in town. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. She really did not know that Niu Dan brother was called Lu Dan. Didn't they say that he went to school early and was called by his full name? Only Chen Liang, as a grandfather, insisted on a lowly name so that it would be easy to raise him up. Lu Dan was Chen Jingkai's son. Lu Dan has also gone to Dowry Academy in the county city to study, Chen Liang said. Gu Yundong said, that's a good thing. Lu Dan used to study in town. When Chen Jingkai was a junior manager, the family of 3 rented a house in town. Later on, Chen Jingkai lost his job, so he naturally stopped renting the house. Fortunately, his mother's maiden family was from town, so Lu Dan stayed at his grandfather's house most of the time, making it convenient for him to go to and from school. However, the Wei family's uncles and aunts were rather dissatisfied. After all, Chen Jingkai had already returned home to farm. Even if he would give food as a living expense every month, how was that enough? They were dissatisfied. The family had a few quarrels because of this, and Lu Dan's studies were also affected. It was only when Chen Jingkai became a county worker that the Wei family became enthusiastic about Lu Dan. However, Lu Dan was not a fool. How could he not see this perfunctory politeness? Therefore, when Chen Jingkai became the shopkeeper and his salary increased and stabilized in the county city, he began to send Lu Dan to the county city to study. It just so happened that Niu Dan was in Dowry Academy, so the 2 brothers could accompany each other. Therefore, not long ago, Lu Dan also entered Dowry Academy. Chen Jingkai was reassured, but the problem also emerged. Niu Dan had been riding the Gu family's carriage to the county city previously. Now that there was an additional Lu Dan, Chen Liang was embarrassed to let his 2 grandsons freeload someone else's carriage. These days, it was Chen Liang who drove the ox cart to send his 2 grandsons to the county city. It was just that the county city was far away and the ox cart was slow. It would be fine if he sent them over once or twice, but if he had to do it every morning and night, it would take too much time. He would not have to do his family's work. Chen Liang had also thought of renting a house in the county city, but firstly, the rent in the county city was expensive, and secondly, his 2 grandsons were still young. He would not be at ease without someone to take care of them. Although Chen Jingkai could occasionally stay in the backyard of Gus's shop, he couldn't live there with the children. After thinking about it, Chen Liang still wanted to borrow the Gu family's carriage to commute to the county. However, it had to carry an extra Lu Dan. Gu Yundong immediately agreed. No problem. Chen Liang heaved a sigh of relief and took out the copper coins on him. Here is 100 copper coins. Take it as the fare for the 2 brothers' carriage. Gu Yundong thought about it and did not refuse. She accepted it anyway. Chen Liang heaved a sigh of relief. Then I'll go back first. You guys rest early too. He waved his hand and left the Gu residence briskly. When he returned to his courtyard, Madame Zhou, who had been waiting, hurriedly welcomed him. Did they accept the 100 copper coins? They did. Chen Liang looked relaxed as he went in to eat. Madame Zhou heaved a sigh of relief. Unexpectedly, Madame Wei was unhappy when she heard this. It's just one more person. They actually took money. The Gu family doesn't lack those 100 copper coins. Why do they have to charge this? As soon as she finished speaking, Madame Zhou patted her back heavily. Shut up. I finally know why your husband didn't bring you to the county. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1069. Returning to the prefectural city, Madame Wei cried out in pain. Then she was stunned and hurriedly asked, "Why not?" "Because you're stupid and don't know your place." Madame Zhou sneered. "If the Gu family doesn't accept the 100 copper coins, your father won't be at ease, your man won't be at ease, and your second brother won't be at ease either. When the time comes, he might as well not work in the Gu family." "How come?" "It wasn't that serious." Madame Wei didn't care. "Why not? The Gu family's carriage is to send Yunshu and Yuanji to school. Why should it carry 2 more people?" Back then, in order to pick up Nyodan, the carriage had to go to Dongyi Academy. The 2 schools are not close at all. Nyodan and Yunshu are good friends, so they picked him up on the way. "However, your sister-in-law will send some eggs and vegetables from time to time for the sake of friendship. Now, the 2 children in our family are going to school in the county city. In the end, you think it's just a matter of helping. Let me tell you, that's pushing your luck. What if everyone in the village follows? Whoever wants to go to the county city will just take the carriage. Then what will happen to the Gu family's carriage? Have you thought about the consequences?" No wonder her son said to let Madame Wei stay at home and let her teach her how to conduct herself. This eldest daughter-in-law was too ignorant. She was so petty about 100 copper coins. If they hadn't been so friendly with the Gu family, would Yundong have considered letting Jin Kai in to be the shopkeeper? Madame Wei did not dare to speak after being glared at by her mother-in-law. When she lowered her eyes, she saw her sister-in-law, Madame Song, laughing at her misfortune. She was instantly furious. Madame Song turned around and went into the house. The next morning, the vaccination at the ancestral hall began again. As expected, another carriage came to the village from the county city. Unfortunately, Heyuan had entered the mountains early in the morning to pick herbs and did not come out until dark. Everyone thought that he had entered the mountains and would not return until tomorrow. But on the 3rd day, the carriage came again. However, they found out that Heyuan had gone to a nearby village to purchase herbs. On the 3rd night, these people simply found a farmer's house in a nearby village. They endured the dirty environment and hard bed frames and slept for the entire night. At dawn, they went to Yongfu village to stop Heyuan. Unexpectedly, Heyuan and Gu Yundong had returned to the prefectural city. They came back mainly for 2 things. One was to take back the handkerchief, and the other was to inoculate the villagers. Now that the matter was completed, they really could not delay any longer. After all, the prefecture magistrate didn't give him much time. He had already stayed in Yongfu village for a few days. This time, Gu Yundong and Heyuan did not return to the prefectural city alone. Yunshu and Yuanji also went with them. The 2 of them had just finished the vaccination a few days ago. There were still some acne marks on their bodies, but they were fine. However, these 2 little guys stayed obediently in the carriage this time and did not even look out. It was as if they were afraid that others would see their ugly appearance. Gu Yundong could not help but think of young Lady Yunka. It seemed that her younger siblings were very concerned about their image. At such a young age, they already knew the importance of their looks. However, Zhu, oh no, Xiaoquan, continued to stay in Yongfu village. When the carriage arrived at the prefectural city, the sky was slightly dark and it looked like it was going to rain. Gu Yundong lifted the curtain and looked out. The pedestrians on the road were indeed in a hurry. Just as she was about to make the carriage speed up, her eyes paused. Suddenly, she saw a familiar figure standing in front of the notice board. "Stop the carriage." Phew! Heyuan pulled the reins. As soon as the carriage stopped, Gu Yundong jumped out and walked to that person's side. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1070. Eldest Aunt Gu wants to move out. Eldest Aunt. Gu Yundong patted her shoulder. Gu Dafeng was stunned for a moment before retracting her gaze from the portrait on the notice wall. "Yundong, you're back?" Gu Dafeng said in surprise. Gu Yundong nodded and looked at the notice wall. There was still a portrait of her uncle there, but there was still no news of him. Gu Dafeng sighed slightly. "We're reunited. Only your uncle is left." I don't know where he is now. Gu Yundong pursed his lips. Eldest aunt, don't worry. This portrait is not only in Xuanhe Prefecture, but also in Qingan Prefecture, Wanqing Prefecture, and even the capital. I've also asked someone to find out his whereabouts. Gu Dafeng nodded. I know. I just feel a little uncomfortable. It's been so long and there's no news at all. Do you think he's all ready? She didn't dare to continue. If that was the case, Gu Dafeng hoped that she wouldn't hear from him for the rest of her life. Losing her daughter was already abnormally painful. If even her youngest brother lost his life in that escape, how bad would that be? He hadn't even married yet. Gu Yundong was actually prepared for this, but she was a little indignant. Eldest aunt, let's go back first. It's going to rain soon. By the way, Yunji is also in the carriage. When Gu Dafeng heard this, she did look away. She rubbed her face hard and turned around with a smile. She hurriedly got into the carriage. The two children in the carriage seemed to be sleeping, but they were woken up by Gu Yundong's "Stop the carriage." They were still in a daze and were about to sit up. Gu Dafeng had not seen her son for a while. Seeing him like this, he immediately smiled. When Bian Yuanji saw his mother, he suddenly became energetic and pounced over. Mother! Gu Dafeng hugged him and sat down at the side. Are you still sleepy? Sleep a little longer. Mother will wake you up when we get home. Bian Yuanji blushed and nodded. Then, he leaned into her arms and closed his eyes. Yun Shu pouted and turned to look at her sister. Gu Yundong. As expected, the child stuffed his head into Gu Yundong's arms without a word and closed his eyes to continue sleeping. Gu Yundong looked up at the sky. She really wasn't married yet, brother. Gu Dafeng originally wanted to carry Yun Shu over, but when she saw this, she couldn't help but laugh. The carriage moved again. Gu Dafeng lowered her head to look at her son. When she looked up again, she lowered her voice. Yundong, I plan to move out after your father finishes the prefectural examination. Gu Yundong was stunned. Why are you in such a hurry? How am I in a hurry? Gu Dafeng shook his head. My husband can already stand up now. He can even take a few steps despite swaying. He's getting better and better. Of course, we should find another house to live in. It had been half a year, and Bien Han's legs had indeed recovered a lot. Although he was still in a wheelchair, he could stand up and take care of himself. Gu Yundong thought about it and did not ask him to stay. All right, are you still looking for a house on Xingtao Street? Yes, I asked Xiao Yuan's mother to keep an eye out for me. The two of them spoke as they arrived at the small courtyard. The Gu family was very happy to see them back, especially little Yunka. She rushed over to hug her brother, but when she ran up to him, she found the acne mark on his face. The young lady immediately stopped in her tracks, turned around, and fell into Gu Yundong's arms. The whole family was laughing. Only Gu Yunshu, who had been despised, was full of hatred. The next day, Xiao Qingyuan went to the Million Gold Pavilion again. However, the rest of the Gu family began to nervously anticipate the prefectural examination that would be held in 3 days. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1071, Prefecture Examination Result released the registration for the prefectural examination and the content were similar to the county examinations, but there had to be one more endorser. As for the examination subjects, they were divided into scripture analysis, essay, and strategy analysis. After the prefectural examination, it would be time for the prefecture examination. Gu Dajiang was no longer as apprehensive as before. Now that he was participating in the prefectural examination, he was no longer afraid. Junkin, who had also passed the county examination, came to the prefectural city more than 10 days ago. However, the prefectural city was very noisy now, and many people who came for vaccination stayed in inns. Junkin could not find a place to stay, so Qin Wenjing found the Gu family for him. He was Yunshu's classmate and usually took good care of Yunshu and Yuanji. He was also fated to take the same exam as Gu Dajiang. It was a piece of cake. The Gu family naturally would not reject it. Gu Dajiang arranged for Junkin to stay in the backyard of Gus. However, during the day when Gus was noisy, He would bring books to the Gu family's small courtyard to discuss knowledge with Gu Dajiang. Now that their relationship had improved by leaps and bounds, they were like friends for years. On the day of the exam, Gu Yundong brought her younger siblings and mother to send Gu Dajiang to the examination hall. At 5:15, before dawn, the examination courtyard opened. Thousands of examinees were body-checked one by one. Gu Yundong handed the examination basket to Gu Dajiang. Now that the weather was getting warmer, he had finally broken free from the shackles of 10 single clothes. There was nothing in the examination basket. Other than the identity card, nothing else was allowed to be brought into the examination hall. The calligraphy, ink, paper, and inkstones were provided by the examination hall. Someone would also send food and water over. The first 2 subjects would take 1 day, but the third subject would take 2 days. However, the quilts for the night were also provided, so he was not worried. After Gu Dajiang went in, they turned around and left. Fortunately, Gu Dajiang wasn't by the toilet this time. The entire exam went unexpectedly smoothly. When the prefecture examination ended, Gu Dajiang walked out feeling refreshed. The entire family went forward. Gu Dafeng was the first to ask him, "How did you do? Did you answer all the questions?" "Everything's fine. There's no need to worry." Yes, other than the food provided in the examination hall being a little unpalatable, Gu Dajiang felt even more at ease in the prefecture examination than in the county examination. There were many people outside the examination hall. Gu Yundong was afraid of her younger siblings getting hurt from all the squeezing, so she quickly got them into the carriage and went back first. A few days later, the rankings would be released. The family first booked a nearby tea house and found a private room to sit in. Heyuan was also here. The million-gold pavilion no longer needed him. The doctors inside had already become proficient. To everyone, the popularity of the cowpox vaccination method had already decreased. Everyone was more concerned about the prefectural examination and the rankings. Therefore, when the rankings were posted, there was a huge crowd in front of the notice board. It was much grander than the county examination back then. Gu Yundong was waiting upstairs, but Shui Rong and Tong Shuitao could not wait any longer and went down early to squeeze to the front. After an unknown period of time, the sound of "I got it" exploded in everyone's ears. Gu Yundong could not help but become nervous. Her father was the county champion back then. She did not know if he could continue to be the champion. Just as she was thinking about it, a loud shout came from downstairs again. "Who is the champion?" Gu Yundong immediately pricked up her ears to listen. She was not the only one. Everyone else present was the same. On the other hand, Gu Dajiang looked indifferent. To him, obtaining a county championship was already unexpected. It would be a little difficult to obtain the prefecture championship. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1072. Take down the champion. Putting aside the fact that there were thousands of people participating in the prefecture examination, just the Tianhai Academy alone was already filled with talents. As expected, an unfamiliar name was quickly mentioned downstairs. Everyone felt a little regretful, but they still had a smile on their faces as they comforted Gu Dajiang. It's fine, it's fine. This prefectural examination is so difficult. We saw people taking the exam that day. They were all in their 70s or 80s. It's obvious that it wasn't easy to pass. We can't be too greedy." Gu Dajiang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "You don't have to do this. I'm already mentally prepared. As far as I know, there are dozens of people participating in the prefectural examination from Tianhai Academy this time. All of them are people who are well-read. I'm an old man who has only been in the academy for less than a year. I'm already satisfied to be able to pass." How many years had it been since he had put down his books? The championship was not a carrot or cabbage. It was not that easy to get it. Just as he was thinking about it, 2 people ran up from downstairs, panting. Tong Shuitao was the first to enter. She turned around and realized that Shui Rong was still behind her. She immediately turned back and dragged him over. "I told you that your body is too weak. I told you not to go down, but you refused to listen. I could have come in and out myself, but I have to bring you along. It's troublesome. Shui Rong was speechless. Yes, you're strong, so you're right. He couldn't say a word. Even his arm hurt from being pulled too hard by her. He didn't have the strength to refute. Tong Shuitao strode through the door with a happy smile on her face. Congratulations, old master. You won second place in the class ranking exam. Second place? Everyone was stunned. Gu Dajiang was also shocked. He suspected that he had heard wrongly. What did you say just now? Is it second or 20th? Second. Shui Rong finally caught his breath and replied firmly, and young Master Yi, 8th place in the Prefectural examination. Yi Junkin was not with them. He went back after the exam. It was his family's turn to be vaccinated in the county. Gu Dajiang laughed. All right. Gu Yunshu slammed the table. So close. Father was so close to taking down the champion. Gu Yundong was speechless. She did not teach him this, did she? But no matter what, after passing the prefectural examination, Gu Dajiang was now a proper preparation scholar. Although he was a little old, this was the first time Gu Dajiang had participated in the imperial examination. Furthermore, he was ranked at the top. His ranking was very gratifying. Father, we're happy today. Let's go to Jinxiu restaurant later and have a good meal to celebrate, okay? All right, let's go to Jinxiu restaurant. The children were the happiest when they went to celebrate. Yunka had already started to order. Sister, I want to eat peach blossom meat, flour carving chicken, melon strips, squirrel fish and tender tofu and balls. Gu Yundong pinched her pink cheeks. You're quite good at memorizing the names of dishes. I'm good. The little girl patted her small chest proudly. Yunshu and Yuanji followed suit and ordered food. Although Big Sister's dishes were also very delicious, it was also an enjoyment to occasionally go to a restaurant to eat their signature dishes. They had not eaten at Jinxiu restaurant in the prefecture capital. Therefore, before they left the tea house, the Gu family had already ordered all the dishes. When they went downstairs, the group of people looked at the bustling street and quickly walked towards the main road. The carriage was parked in a spacious place. They got into the carriage and quickly rushed to their destination. However, when they arrived at Jinxiu restaurant, just as everyone sat down in the private room, the shop assistant suddenly came up and said, Miss Gu, Tong Ping is here. Should we invite him up? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1073. Giving birth. Gu Yundong was about to order when she heard this. Tong Ping is here? Yes, he is. Get him up here. Tong Shuitao quickly stood up. Miss, I'll go welcome my father. Seeing Gu Yundong nod, she immediately followed the shop assistant downstairs. Gu Yundong, on the other hand, found it strange. Tong Ping is here to deliver goods? Then why did he come to Jinxiu restaurant? Maybe to help carry things, Xiaoxi said. Because he had a good relationship with the Lu family. Sometimes when the Gu family needed to deliver something and the Lu family needed too, the Lu family would ask them to carry it. It was not troublesome. As they were pondering, Tong Shuitao had already brought Tong Ping up. Gu Yundong looked up and saw the excitement on Tong Ping's face. She could not help but smile. Why are you here? You look happy. She rarely saw such an obvious change in Tong Ping's expression. Yes, there's a joyous occasion. Tong Ping seemed to have thought of something and started laughing. Oh, tell me quickly. The smile on Tong Ping's face never faded. The night before last, my wife gave birth. Gu Yundong's eyes lit up. The child is born? That's right, Tong Ping's wife's due date was indeed within these few days. Previously, she had even prepared a red packet gift. It was just that it happened to coincide with her father's examination, so she had forgotten about it for a moment. The others also became happy. Tong Shuitao jumped up in shock. My mother gave birth? A boy or a girl? When did she give birth? Is my mother all right? All right. Your mother is quite good. She gave birth to a big fat boy and it went smoothly. This was all thanks to the Gu family's masters treating them well. Tong Ping still remembered that when Tong Shuitao was born, His wife had been in pain for an entire day and night and almost couldn't make it. Shui Tao was also thin and small, as if she would die if her parents weren't careful. At that time, his wife was thin and weak. After she got pregnant, she had to work too. If she did not do well, she would have to kneel and kowtow to the master and be scolded. When she was pregnant with Shui Tao, the young master even deliberately knocked into her stomach twice, scaring the Tong family so much that they thought that they would lose the child. But what could they do? Even if the young master wanted to abort the child in her stomach, they had no right to object. However, things were completely different in the Gu family. They ate and lived well. When their wives were pregnant, they were healthy and did not suffer from any illness. With money in their hands, they could also hire a doctor and a midwife. The food they ate was not bad either. Miss even told his wife to rest more, especially when the pregnancy was unstable in the first 3 months. She did not let her work at all. In the end, even if it was stable, she would only let his wife do some light work. These days, there were only 2 young masters in the family. They actually did not have much to do. The 2 young masters were even more amiable. They ran and jumped after leaving the Gu family. At home, they only read and wrote. His wife especially liked to listen to the young masters read in the room. Listening to their tender voices, she felt exceptionally comfortable and stable. Tong Ping felt that when this kid grew up in the future, he would definitely be like his second brother, Tongan, who could read and study especially quickly. Actually, her doctor said that it was still a little dangerous for his wife to give birth at her age. However, they did not expect it to be even smoother than Shui Tao's. She came out in 2 hours. Even the midwife said that it was a miracle. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1074. Bestowing a name. Tong Ping's emotions surged, and he couldn't help but say, "The child has just been born and doesn't even have a name. I just want to ask Old Master to give the child a name. I wonder if it's possible?" Gu Dajiang was very happy. "You want me to name him?" "Of course. Back then, I was the one who named Yundong and the others." "Thank you, Master." Gu Dajiang lowered her eyes and fell into deep thought. He tapped his fingers on the table. The elder sister's name is Shui Tao, and the younger brother's name can be Yuzhu. One is water, and the other is wood. They grow together. Bamboo also represents tenacious life force, and it also means blessings for peace and prosperity. I hope this child is safe and happy. Brother and sister are united, and the benefits will cut through gold. Yunshu was eager to give it a try. In fact, he had already thought of many names in his heart. It was a good time to say them now. When the time came, he would let Tong Ping choose one. Unexpectedly, just as he opened his mouth, before he could say the first name, Tong Ping suddenly knelt down and kowtowed heavily. "Thank you for the name, Old Master." Gu Dajiang was shocked and quickly got him to stand up. All right. Today is a happy day. Don't kneel here and there. I like to give names." Unfortunately, Mao and the others didn't look for him when they changed their names. This made Gu Dajiang regret it for a long time. Gu Yundong immediately called out to him, "All right, you're here. Let's eat together. This is a joyous occasion. We have to celebrate." Tong Shuitao was so happy just now that tears flowed out. At this moment, she hurriedly wiped her sleeves. "That's right, father. Today is a double blessing. Not only did mother give birth to a younger brother, but master also passed the prefecture examination and got second place." Tong Ping suddenly came back to his senses. Yes. Today is the day of the prefectural examination's result release. Before I came to the prefectural city, the village chief asked me to bring the news back after reading it. I went over just now, but the streets there were too congested and I couldn't squeeze in. I wanted to go around this side, but I didn't expect to see Master and Miss enter the Jinxiu restaurant just as I came over. I hurriedly ran over. In the end, when young Miss asked him what happy news he had, he immediately thought of his wife giving birth to a child and forgot what he wanted to say. Unexpectedly, Old Master actually got second place. This was really a joyous matter. Not only that, but young Master Xiao had also presented the Emperor with the cowpox vaccination method. Everyone in Yongfu village treated him as a hero. 3 blessings. The Gu family was very happy. They called the waiter over to order more food. Everyone ate to their heart's content before leaving Jinxiu restaurant happily. After leaving the door, Gu Yundong said to Tong Shuitao, "Your mother has given birth to a baby. Go back and wait on her before coming back." Tong Shuitao was stunned for a moment before immediately shaking her head. "No, Miss Maidservant. I have to follow Miss to protect Mississippi. My mother has my grandmother to take care of her. It's fine." "Alright, I'm just asking you to go back for a month. Can't I do anything without you? Don't you want to see your new brother? Go back with your father. Your grandmother is too old to take care of the family and your mother. She can't handle it." Tong Shuitao thought about it and agreed. Her mother would definitely not be able to work right after the childbirth. Her grandmother had to take care of her mother, and the Gu family's house and backyard had to be cleaned up. In addition, the 2 young masters had to return to Yongfu village in a few days. At that time, her grandmother would indeed be too busy alone. She was strong. 1 person could match 2 people. It was still very useful. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1075. I'm going out therefore. Tong Shuitao hesitated for a moment before agreeing. After all, she could not wait to see her newborn brother. Tong Shuitao quickly went back to pack a few sets of clothes, then left with Tong Ping. The Gu family had all returned home. When the results of the prefectural examination were out, the neighbors also knew. On the way back, Gu Yundong specially bought some sweets and snacks for everyone to enjoy. As soon as they reached home, someone came to their door. The people living here were all scholars, including elementary scholars and high scholars. Therefore, although Gu Dajiang had won 2nd place in the prefectural examination, everyone was not very surprised. They came to congratulate him and returned. The candy in Gu Dajiang's hand was quickly distributed. The family living next door to the small courtyard was the last to leave. When she left, she pulled Gu Dafeng and said, "Previously, a girl surnamed Feng came over and said that there's already some progress in the matter you asked her to pay attention to. She asked you to go over tomorrow to take a look." Gu Dafeng's eyes lit up. She quickly thanked the neighbor and sent her out. Gu Dajiang asked curiously, "Who is Sister Fan?" "It's Xiaoyuan's mother." Gu Dajiang was enlightened. "So it's Xiaoyuan's mother." She had an impression of this. The potted plants in the courtyard were all bought from her. "What did you ask her to pay attention to?" "It's about finding a house." "Didn't I tell you before?" "Well, move out after you pass the prefectural examination." Gu Dajiang was stunned. "You did, but I just passed the prefectural examination." "You're too fast." Gu Dafeng waved her hand. "What's so fast about it? I've been searching for a month before there's finally a suitable one. I'll go take a look tomorrow. If it's possible, I'll rent it." "Actually, don't stop me. You know my personality. Besides, I've already spoken to you." Gu Dajiang couldn't help but sigh and stop persuading her. Indeed, there was no reason to stop her from leaving. His brother-in-law Bianhan's legs had already recovered, and their wooden carvings were selling well. Previously, Bianhan had listened to Yundong's suggestion and often carved complete sets of works. There were indeed many people who were unwilling to just buy one item. When they saw a complete set, they insisted on buying it together. Gu Dafeng already had a lot of money in her hands. Now, the couple also planned to buy some good wood and carve more exquisite things. They could sell them in the shop later. When they had enough money, they would consider renting a shop. That way, they would not have to go to the market every day. It had rained several times in the prefectural city a few days ago, and it would last for 2 to 3 days. It was not convenient for Gu Dafeng to set up a stall in such weather. It was better to have her own shop. Seeing that her father had no objections, Gu Yundong said, "Eldest aunt, I'll go with you tomorrow." "You're free tomorrow?" "It's okay." Gu Dafeng nodded. "Coincidentally, I heard that the local tyrants at Xingtao Street are afraid of you. With you around, I can avoid a lot of trouble." The children immediately raised their hands. "We're going too." "Don't follow me." It's not like we need so many people for a gang fight. You can go after we rent the house. Gu Dafeng rejected them mercilessly. The children pouted in disappointment. They turned around angrily and ran into the house, muttering something. Heyuan, who had been silent all this while, narrowed his eyes slightly. He clenched his fists and suddenly said to Gu Yundong, "I'm going out for a while. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1076, Familiar Box, Where are you going? Gu Yundong looked at the sky. It was already so late. He could not possibly go to the Million Gold Pavilion. Heyuan had already reached the door. He waved his hand. "They'll be back in a while." When Gu Yundong wanted to ask again, he had already disappeared behind the door. He moved very quickly and disappeared in an instant. Gu Yundong was confused. After a while, she turned around and returned to the courtyard. Then, she saw Gu Dafeng packing up, especially the wooden carvings scattered in the courtyard. She had gathered them one by one. Gu Yundong walked over to help tidy up the house. "Eldest aunt, you don't have to be in such a hurry. You haven't seen the house yet. What if you're not satisfied?" "If I'm not satisfied, so be it. It doesn't matter. They'll have to clean it up sooner or later anyway. Hey, pass that to me." Gu Yundong followed the direction of her finger and handed over a wooden sculpture. Gu Dafeng took it and looked up at her. "Where did Heyuan go?" "I don't know. It looks like it's an emergency." Gu Dafeng nodded. "That must be very urgent and important. Heyuan is a good child and knows his limits. You don't have to worry too much." Eldest aunt seems to have a very high opinion of him. That's true. He may look cold on the outside, but his heart is warm. Although he doesn't know how to say good things, the things he does make people feel warm in their hearts. Your uncle's legs have been inconvenient these days. When Heyuan sees him, he will help. Even if he goes to the toilet, he will carry him. Tell me, who would be willing to do this, especially a young man who is not related to us? Isn't it because he dotes on you? As she spoke, she thought of Bien Mulan's husband. If it was him, he definitely wouldn't do such a thing. Her niece was blessed and would lead a good life in the future. Gu Yundong pursed her lips and smiled. Heyuan was indeed not bad, but he did not know how to put in a good word. She did not agree. This fellow was smart. She and Gu Dafeng chatted as they packed. She originally thought that Heyuan would return soon after leaving. Unexpectedly, he only appeared at the entrance of the small courtyard in a hurry when the sun set. Besides him, there was also Xiaowen, the former Mao. Xiaowen was carrying 2 large boxes of things. They looked like tea leaves and wine. Moreover, from the packaging outside, they were the most expensive ones in the prefecture capital. Heyuan was holding a familiar box. Gu Yundong's eyelids twitched. A familiar feeling welled up in his heart. She was about to go forward and ask him where he had gone when she saw Heyuan wink at her before striding into the central room. Gu Dajiang was talking to the 3 children. They were very curious about the matter in the examination shed and were asking about the difference between the county and prefectural examinations. Just as they were listening with relish, they saw Heyuan enter. He said to Gu Dajiang, "Uncle Gu, I have something to tell you." Seeing his solemn expression, Gu Dajiang nodded and said to the 3 children, "All right, go out first. We'll talk later." After the little ones left, Gu Dajiang brought Heyuan to the study. Gu Yundong stood in the courtyard, his heart suddenly racing. Gu Dafeng had walked to her side and stood still. He asked softly, "Why is Heyuan looking for your father? He looks very serious." "I'm not sure either." Although she said that, she could not help but clench her fists. Just as she finished speaking, a loud bang suddenly came from inside. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1077, Gu Dajiang, shut up with a bang. It sounded like a stool was suddenly knocked to the ground. Everyone in the courtyard turned around in shock. Gu Yundong was about to walk in when the door of the study was suddenly opened. Heyuan and Xiaoquan were pushed out. Gu Dajiang's face flushed red as he pointed at him with a trembling finger. Just get the hell out of here right now. Heyuan didn't move, and Gu Dajiang was instantly angry. Although he was a scholar, he was also a farmer. He was so angry that he cursed on the spot. I told you to leave, did you hear that? I was happy when I just passed the prefectural examination, but you came over immediately to pour cold water on me, right? Wedding? Why don't you take a look at how old Yundong is? Can't wait to get the cabbage? Let me tell you, no way. Wait for another 2 years, no, 3 years. Gu Dajiang, shut up. Another voice suddenly sounded in the courtyard. Gu Dajiang instantly stopped talking and looked up at the exasperated Gu Dafeng. Gu Dafeng rolled up her sleeves and strode over. She looked at Xiaoxi, who was standing at the door without saying a word but looked a little aggrieved and stubborn. She immediately said gently, "Qing, go and rest for a while. I'll talk to him. Don't worry." Then, she turned around and looked at Gu Dajiang with a livid expression. She pushed Gu Dajiang into the room and closed the door with a bang. Immediately after, Gu Dafeng's resentful voice sounded. "Enough. Is there a father like you? Yundong and Heyuan were engaged a long time ago. Didn't you agree to? Now that you're married, you're still making things difficult for her. But are you afraid that your daughter's life will be too good in the future? No. Sister, Yundong is still young." Gu Dajiang wasn't that confident when facing his sister. "What do you mean young? She's already an adult. She's a big girl." Gu Dafeng snorted. "If you still want to keep her for 2 to 3 years, you might as well keep her until she's in her 70s or 80s. Gu Dafeng glared at him again, then sighed and sat beside him. She said earnestly, "I know you dote on Yundong and can't bear to part with her, but you can't keep her forever. It's rare for Yundong and Heyuan to have a good relationship." As she spoke, she suddenly suppressed her voice and said softly, "Moreover, you have to think about it. Heyuan is different from before. In the past, he had no parents and lived in a dilapidated house. He couldn't even eat alone. In addition, his reputation in the village was not good, so he didn't get married for a long time. But now, he has been to the capital, met the emperor, treated the prince's illness, and has good skills. He's tall and handsome and has several shops. Do you know how many people are watching him now? When I was at the market last time, I heard many people talking about him. Even many wealthy families in the city liked him and wanted him to be their son-in-law. It's rare that he's unmoved and only wants to be with Yundong. Let me tell you, if you stop him again, he might be intercepted." Gu Dajiang frowned and sneered. "So be it. Our Yundong is so outstanding. Should I be afraid that she won't be able to find a good husband?" Gu Dafeng was so angry that she slapped him on the back. "But Yundong likes Heyuan. So what if you find a good husband? Do you still want to be that muddle-headed worm that breaks up the lovebirds and make them both unhappy? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1078, showing her thumbs. Gu Dajiang immediately fell silent. The people outside the door gradually could not hear their voices and could only look at each other. "Gu Ixral city examination, but I didn't say that I was in such a hurry. The rankings have just been released today. No wonder her father was so angry." Xiaoxi pursed his lips and paused for a moment before saying, "Eldest aunt is looking for a house tomorrow. If it's suitable, she'll probably move over on the same day." He did not finish his sentence, but Gu Yundong completely understood. She stared at him with wide eyes. After a moment, she gave him a thumbs up. "Good for you. Is still in the small courtyard?" Xiaoxi laughed. "Don't tell anyone." Gu Yundong rolled her eyes at him. "I'm not stupid." As she spoke, the door of the study was opened again. Gu Dajiang's expression was still very ugly, but his tone was much better. He said to Xiaoxi, who was at the door, "Come in." Xiaoxi immediately took the box and entered the study again. Gu Yundong was scratching her head. Why did her father only call him in? Wasn't this about her marriage? Should she, the person involved, go in? It was unknown what was said inside, but after a long time, Auntie Nyo came over for the 3rd time to say that it was time for dinner. Only then did the three of them come out of the study. Gu Yundong's sharp eyes saw that the box in Xiao Yuan's hand was gone, but Gu Dajiang did not ask him to stay and let him go back to eat. In front of Gu Dajiang, Xiao Yuan couldn't say much to Gu Yundong. He gestured at her and left the small courtyard with Xiaowen. Gu Dajiang placed his hands behind his back and called out to the people in the courtyard, "All right, let's eat first." Gu Yundong could only suppress her doubts and follow him to the reception pavilion. On the other hand, Gu Dafeng was a step behind. He walked to her side and whispered, "Don't worry. Your father won't dare to hit Qingyuan in front of me, and he won't break you up." Gu Yundong was speechless. She was not worried about this at all. After entering the reception pavilion, probably because Gu Dajiang didn't look too good, everyone was very quiet. No one said a word and quickly dispersed after eating. Gu Yundong also returned to her room. However, not long after she entered, there was a knock on the door. Gu Dajiang's voice came from the door. "Yundong, may I come in?" "Father." Gu Yundong hurriedly opened the door and let Gu Dajiang in. Gu Dajiang held the box that Xiao Qingyuan had given him. He walked to the table and sat down. Then he looked at Gu Yundong and said, "Xiao Qingyuan sent this today." Gu Yundong glanced at her father, paused, and reached out to open the box. As expected, it contained all of Xiao Qingyuan's assets. "Betrothal gifts," Gu Dajiang said. "He's offered the 2 shops and the house in Yongfu village. He said that he had already given you the contract for the manor outside the city, right?" Gu Yundong nodded. Looking at the box in front of her, she felt her hands become extremely heavy and hot. "Gu Dajiao part with you. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1079. Dowry. As Gu Dajiang spoke, his mood sank slightly. "You're my first child. Back then, when your mother gave birth to you, it was difficult for her to give birth. The doctors said that she would never be able to give birth again. At that time, your mother and I thought that you were our only daughter. We wished we could give you everything." Among the 3 children, Gu Dajiang had always had the deepest feelings for Gu Yundong. "I still remember when you were just born. You were a little ball. I didn't expect you to get married in the blink of an eye. I felt like I was in a dream. It's unreal. I'm not capable. I didn't give you a good life when I was in the old Gu family. Now in Yongfu village, you're the one who let the Gu family live a good life. Now that I'm already a preparation scholar, they'll become an elementary scholar in August. I can more or less protect you. I just thought that when I get the titles, my status will be different. I can still shelter you from the wind and rain for a year or 2. I didn't expect that kid to be so impatient." Gu Dajiang couldn't help but lower his head and wipe the corners of his eyes. Gu Yundong's heart ached at his words. She felt both suffocated and warm. She knew that her father had been trying very hard to support this family, so he had worked very hard. He had won the championship in the county examination and 2nd place in the prefectural examination. He wanted to obtain a title as soon as possible and shield her from the wind and rain. Gu Yundong had always known that her father wrote letters, copied books, and drew drawings to earn money. He also worked hard to promote candy in the academy. He was silently supporting his daughter in his own way. Although there were people in the academy who criticized him for being a greedy scholar, Gu Dajiang didn't care. He only cared that as a father he still needed his daughter to work so hard to support him in his studies. He wanted to share some of the burden, even if it was insignificant. He wanted to help Yundong more, but Xiao Qingyuan cut him off. This was what Gu Dajiang disliked about him. Gu Yundong slowly took a deep breath and suppressed the tears in her eyes. She smiled and said, "Father, even if Brother Xiao and I get married, you can continue to shelter me from the wind and rain. I'm still your daughter. If outsiders bully me, you'll tell them that my father is Gu Dajiang. He's now an elementary scholar, a high scholar in 3 years, and an honorable scholar in the future." Gu Dajiang was amused by her. "You sure have confidence in me." "Of course." Gu Dajiang nodded at her before continuing, "You'll get someone to calculate the date of your wedding tomorrow. We definitely have to choose a good day. As for your dowry, I can't take out anything else. The few shops and the workshop in the village are your dowry. As for the house in Yongfu village, the small courtyard now, and the few hundred acres of orchard, you directly registered it under my name back then. Consider that I've bought them from you. I'll pay you when I have money in the future. Gu Yundong frowned. Father, what are you saying? How can I? You don't understand. Women only have confidence when they have dowry. Gu Dajiang bluffed. It's settled then. As a father, I'm not that shameless to take my daughter's things for myself. Gu Yundong stood up. How can you call this taking things for yourself? You raised me up. Isn't it my duty to be filial to you? Even so, you don't have to do so much for me. If I take it from me, I'll feel guilty. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1080. Did the Gu family escape here? Gu Yundong frowned deeply. For the first time, she realized that she could not win against her father. However, since she had put these things under Gu Dajiang's name back then, they were the Gu family's house. She had no objections to the shop and workshop being her dowry, but the house, what should I do? How troublesome. Gu Dajiang made the final decision and left the box of betrothal gifts from Xiaoxi. Gu Yundong. As expected, once they were about to get married, this matter instantly became complicated. The first thing was the distribution of assets. If this was in any other family, it would probably be good enough if the father could give his daughter a dowry of a few hundred taels of silver. However, when it came to her father, he did not want anything. He would give her the money for the house where he was currently staying in the future. She could understand her father's thoughts, but she could not bring everything into the Xiao family as a dowry. This matter had to be discussed again. Not many people in the Gu family slept well that night. However, the next day, Gu Dafeng still woke up early. Gu Yundong had agreed to accompany her to look at the house. Not many people went. Besides her and Gu Dafeng, there were also Bian Han and Shui Rong. The others, especially the three brats, stayed at home obediently. Gu Yundong had been to Xingtao Street several times, so she was already familiar with the place. When she knocked on Xiao Yuan's door, Madame Fan and Xiao Yuan happened to be going out to set up a stall. When she saw Gu Dafeng, Madame Fan immediately put down the cart in her hand and planned not to go out. You're here to look at the house, right? They'll bring you there now. Gu Dafeng quickly stopped her. No need, no need. Just tell us where the owner is. It's a rare good day today. Don't delay your business. We'll go over ourselves. Gu Yundong also said, that's right. Mrs. Fan, you should be busy. We're all adults now. We can find the place by ourselves. How can that be? We agreed that I would bring you there. How can I leave you behind? Just as she finished speaking, a head suddenly popped in from outside. When she saw the person inside, she immediately exclaimed, Boss? Why are you here? Gu Yundong turned around. Wasn't this Su Qing? You're off today? Yes, it's my turn to rest. I heard some movements here, so I came over to take a look. The Su family lived next door, which was very close. Xiao Yuan was on good terms with her, so she immediately explained everything in detail. Su Qing nodded in understanding. I know where the owner is. Mrs. Fan, go ahead. They'll bring the boss and the rest over. You do. Su Qing nodded with certainty. Madame Fan was relieved. Only then did she bring Xiao Yuan out of the courtyard and go to the market to set up a stall. Su Qing went home and informed Mother Su. Mother Su found it strange. Boss Gus Aunt is looking for a house? Why is she here? Could it be that her aunt's family isn't well off? One had to know that the rent of the houses here was cheap, but this place was not very peaceful. Just the local tyrant alone was a headache. Su Qing said, I heard that after the boss aunt fled to the Xuanhe Prefecture 2 years ago, she was lost. She just reunited with the boss last year. Her family should be in trouble. Escape? Mother Su was surprised. Her aunt escaped from the Yongning Prefecture? That's right. Didn't I tell you? The boss also fled here. That's why I especially admire her. With that, Su Qing hurriedly ran out of the door. Mother Su muttered, She's indeed admirable. She just escaped from the famine 2 years ago. Now there's actually such a big. Wait, she escaped from the famine? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1081. She finally remembered. Mother Su suddenly stood up. She remembered. She finally remembered where she had heard the name Gu Yundong. It's all her fault for being senile. She only remembered now. Mother Su hurriedly went out to chase after her. Unexpectedly, she exerted force and suddenly sprained her ankle. It was so painful that she screamed and hurriedly sat down by the door frame. Then she shouted towards the next door, Xiaoqing, Xiaoqing, are you still there? Boss Gu, are you there? No response. Mother Su was anxious and called out anxiously, Xiaoqing. Finally, Xiaoyuan's father's voice sounded from next door. Aunt, what's wrong? Xiaoqing followed Miss Gu to look at the house. What's the matter? Do you need my help? No need, no need. I thought she hadn't left. There's something I need to talk to her about. Go on with your work. All right, Auntie, call me if you need anything. Okay. Mother Su sighed. She didn't expect Xiaoqing and the rest to act so quickly. They had just left the house and were already gone. She held the door frame and stood up again. Fortunately, she had only sprained one ankle and could still walk back to the house. Mother Su slowly moved back into the house and rubbed the liniment on her ankle a few times. On the other side, Su Qing had already led Gu Yundong and the rest to look for the owner. The owner didn't live far away, but the house he wanted to rent was a little far from Xiaoyuan's house. That couldn't be helped. After all, there weren't many suitable houses. When the owner saw them, he immediately brought them to the house enthusiastically. Although my house isn't big, it's in a good location. There's a river outside, so it's especially convenient to wash things. He looked at Bian Han, who was being pushed by Shui Rong in a wheelchair, and said, that road is made of limestone. It's flat. It won't be troublesome for you to go back and forth. Su Qing leaned close to Gu Yundong's ear and whispered, if it's not far from the river, the rent might be a little expensive. Moreover, I heard from my mother that when she rented a house on Xingtao Street in the past, she also went to the river to check houses. Then, she realized that there was a family by the river whose house was not very good. Someone had died unjustly and it was haunted in the middle of the night. I don't know if this house is that house. Boss, walk slowly. I'll run back and ask my mother if it's this house. Don't fall for it. There's no need to go through so much trouble. It's no trouble. This place is not far from my house. It only takes half a cup of tea to go back and forth. With that, Su Qing ran away. Gu Yundong did not know whether to laugh or cry when she saw how energetic she was. Is her personality also affected by Zhuangzi now that they're engaged? Su Qing returned to the Su family very quickly. Unexpectedly, before she could say anything, she saw her mother sitting on the bed and rubbing her ankle. She was shocked. Mother, what's wrong? Mother Su looked up and quickly put down the things in her hand. Oh, you're finally back. Then she looked behind her. Where's your boss? Didn't she come back with you? Boss went to look at the house. Su Qing sat by the bed and was about to take the liniment from her. Mother Su waved her hand. There's no need for you. I have something urgent to tell your boss. Hurry up and bring me there. As she spoke, she was about to get off the ground. Su Qing was so frightened that she hurriedly held her. Don't come down, don't come down. Just tell me what happened. I'll go find the boss. Sigh, I can't explain it clearly to you in a few sentences. Mother, don't be anxious. I'll go find the boss now. Sit down and don't move. With that, Su Qing ran out again. When she reached the door, she suddenly remembered why she came back. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1082. Go and get protection fees. Su Qing hurriedly stopped in her tracks and looked at her mother. She asked, Mother, when you were looking for a house back then, you said that a family by the river had died unjustly and the house was haunted. Which house was it? It's the innermost house. It's abandoned. Su Qing nodded and ran out of the house. She hurried back and forth and soon caught up with Gu Yundong and the rest. Gu Yundong could not help but be surprised when he saw how anxious she looked. Why are you in such a hurry? Boss, my mother said that she has something very important to tell you. Looking for me? Gu Yundong pointed at herself. Is it urgent? Yes, she wanted to come over personally, but she accidentally sprained her ankle and couldn't come out. Gu Yundong was even more puzzled. But from what Su Qing said, it must be very important that Mother Su sprained her ankle because of this. Gu Dafeng, who was beside him, also heard it. The house owner also heard it. Just now, she saw Su Qing run away alone. Now, Su Qing rushed back in a hurry and wanted them to go back. Could it be that this girl had found a cheaper house with a better location? How could that do? The owner was immediately unhappy. What do you mean? Are you going to rent a house or not? I've already brought you all here, but you're leaving without even looking at the house. Are you messing with me? Yes, I'm renting it. I didn't say that I wouldn't rent it. Isn't this an urgent matter? Gu Dafeng said as she pulled Gu Yundong's arm. Why don't you go back with Su Qing to take a look? We can look at the house ourselves. It's not far away anyway. If it's suitable, we can rent it. If it's not, we can look for another one. Gu Yundong thought about it and nodded. All right, eldest aunt, take your time. You can't be in a hurry to rent a house. Of course. Gu Yundong then instructed Shui Rong, take good care of my eldest aunt and uncle. You can also help with their opinions. Yes, my lady. Gu Yundong then said to Su Qing, let's go. I'll go home with you to take a look. Su Qing nodded hurriedly, but before she left, she still asked the landlord, which house are you renting? The one in the innermost area? The owner waved his hand. The house in the innermost area is abandoned. The house I want to rent is not that one. It's the third house to the innermost side. Don't worry, I won't cheat you. Su Qing was relieved and immediately left with Gu Yundong. On the other hand, Shui Rong was meticulous and asked, what's wrong with the house in the innermost area? Why is it abandoned? Sigh, that house is haunted and no one lives there. But don't worry, my house is far away from the house. There's nothing to do with it. You'll know when you see it. The owner led them to the river. Unexpectedly, when they were about to reach it, a person suddenly walked over. That person walked unsteadily. When his gaze landed on the owner, it was meaningful. The owner's expression suddenly changed and he immediately lowered his head. However, Gu Dafeng and Shui Rong were checking the surroundings on both sides and did not notice their expressions. After that person brushed past the owner of the house, his footsteps immediately quickened. Not long after, the man walked into a courtyard and said to one of the people who was playing cards, Boss, I met Qian when I came back just now. He happened to bring people to look at the house by the river. I think we can rent it out soon. Should we pay a visit and ask for protection fees? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1083. Negotiation. The boss raised his eyebrows and pushed the cards away. He looked up and asked him, someone went to look at the house? Did you see who it was? There were 3 people following Qian. 1 was a woman and 2 were men. One of the men was a cripple who was pushed away in a wheelchair. Cripple? The boss touched his chin and clicked his tongue. After a while, he said to him, Little Six, go take a look and see who among them wants to rent a house or if all 3 of them live there. After they rent it and pay, well, go and find someone to ask for protection money. All right, I'll go now. Little Six was excited. He rubbed his hands and walked out of the courtyard happily. He ran quickly and not long after, he saw Gu Dafeng and the others. They happened to walk into the third house's courtyard. Little Six hurriedly took a few steps forward and nestled outside the door to listen to the commotion inside. Coincidentally, the owner of the house was introducing the house. This house belongs to my uncle. Previously, he and my aunt lived alone. Recently, they bought a big house elsewhere, so this house is empty. Because it's an old house, they can't bear to sell it, so they plan to rent it out. The place is not big. There are only 2 rooms. This side is the central room, and next door is the kitchen and outhouse. There's also a small warehouse that's convenient to store miscellaneous things. The courtyard is not big, but you can grow vegetables in the corners on both sides. Also, it'll let you use everything in this room. It's just that some of the tables and chairs are old. If you don't want them, it'll take them away. If you want them, repair them. There's no big problem. There's a river outside. There are more than 20 stone steps to the left. It'll be easy to wash clothes. By the way, how many people will live here? Gu Dafeng listened to him as she checked. Actually, he was very satisfied with this house. Although there were only 2 rooms, they were big enough. The kitchen and outhouse were relatively clean. The tables, chairs, and benches could also be used. Those which were broken could be repaired. Anyway, her man was a carpenter. There was also that small storeroom that could be used to put wood carvings for them. There's only 2 of us. We're husband and wife. She pointed at Bien Han. The landlord nodded. It's enough for 2 people to live in. It's not expensive. The rent for this house is only 1.2 taels a month. How about it? Are you considering renting it? Gu Dafeng frowned. It's not cheap even if it's 1.2 taels. The better locations only cost 1.2 taels. But it's convenient here. To be honest, this price is already very rare in the prefecture capital. Gu Dafeng still frowned and looked a little forced. Let's discuss it first. Alright, you guys discuss it first. Gu Dafeng, Bien Han, and Shui Rong went to the side to whisper. The 3 of them muttered for a while before finally coming to a decision. If the other party was willing to give a discount, they would rent it. Gu Dafeng bargained with the landlord for a tael of silver a month before renting the house. The owner of the house was also afraid of trouble. He had seen Little Six just now. When Little Six saw him, he smiled slyly. He was probably going to cause trouble, so let the rent be less. Just rent it out first. The 2 sides quickly finalized all the matters and wrote the lease. The rent here was paid once a month and there was a tael of silver as a deposit. The lease period was at least half a year. After receiving the money, the owner finally heaved a sigh of relief. At the door, Little Six also threw the last peanut in his hand into his mouth and quickly got up to run. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1084. Do you know Gu Xiaoxi? The owner of the house handed the key to eldest Aunt Gu and left. Gu Dafeng looked at the house that already belonged to her and her heart was suddenly filled with endless vitality. Although they were still renting a house now, she believed that they would be able to buy a house of their own soon. Yundong isn't back yet. Let's clean up the house first and wait for Yundong to come over to take a look. That way, we can move in tomorrow. Boss chuckled, put on his coat and left. Little Six, lead the way. Even though he knew the address and didn't need anyone to lead the way, he still had to have an imposing manner. Alright boss, this way. The local tyrant swaggered towards Gu Dafeng's rented house with a group of underlings. Wherever he went, passers-by quickened their pace and turned their heads to avoid him. When the gangsters were far away, they shook their heads and whispered, I wonder who's unlucky this time. If Gu Yundong was here, she would definitely recognize this group of people. They were the local tyrants who had received benefits from the Zhou family and wanted to cause trouble for her shop. Unfortunately, she was still at the Su residence. After following Su Qing home in a hurry, Gu Yundong saw Mother Su sitting on the bed, sighing and looking vexed. She and Su Qing looked at each other and quickly went forward to ask, Auntie, I heard from Su Qing that you have something very important to discuss with me? Mother Su looked up and hurriedly said, Yes. I suddenly remembered something. I think I have to tell you as soon as possible. As she spoke, she hurriedly gestured for Gu Yundong to take a seat. And please speak. Gu Yundong sat down at the side. Seeing this, Su Qing quickly poured 2 cups of hot water for the 2 of them. As soon as she entered, she heard her mother say, Xiao Qing told me that your family fled from Yongning Prefecture? Bien Han agreed. Alright, I'll see which tables and chairs need to be repaired first. He slowly stood up and inched forward. Bien Han's legs were getting more and more agile. As long as he didn't walk too long and didn't have too much burden on his body, It wouldn't be a problem for him to walk and stop. Seeing this, Shui Rong immediately went into the kitchen and took out a wooden bucket. "I'll go to the river and get some water." "Alright, go ahead." The three of them quickly got to work. No one knew that Little Six had already excitedly told his boss about the situation here. "Boss, should we go now or another day?" The local boss stood up and fiddled with it. "Let's go now. It's boring. Let's take care of our new neighbors in case they don't know the rules of this street." The lackeys at the side immediately echoed, "That's right. How can you not tell us that you're staying at Xingtao Street?" "Sigh, I just lost 50 copper coins to boss. I might be able to make up for it after this trip." "Huh, I lost 20 copper coins too. Let's go together. Who knows, it might be a fat sheep." "Yes, why?" Gu Yundong nodded. Mother Su paused for a moment and said, "When I first heard your name, I found it familiar. It seemed like someone had mentioned this name in my ear. I didn't remember it at that time. After all, there were many people with the same name. It was only when I heard that you had also escaped from the Yongning Prefecture that I came back to my senses." "Boss Gu, do you know a man called Gu Xiaoxi?" With a bang, Gu Yundong suddenly stood up. The stool behind her fell to the ground because of her strength. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1085. Uncle Gus Whereabouts Gu Xiaoxi. Gu Xiaoxi. That was her uncle's name. Gu Yundong's eyes widened. She grabbed Mother Su's hand and asked anxiously, "Auntie, you know Gu Xiaoxi?" "My uncle is called Gu Xiaoxi. He's also from the Yongning Prefecture. He was separated from us when we escaped from the famine. We've been looking for him." As Gu Yundong spoke, she suddenly thought of something and hurriedly took out Gu Xiaoxi's portrait from her space. "Auntie, look, is this the person you saw?" Su Qing was surprised. Her boss had really put in a lot of effort to find her family. She even brought a portrait with her. However, Mother Su looked at the portrait and frowned slightly. She shook her head and said, "I don't know." Gu Yundong was stunned. "You don't know?" The Gu Xiaoxi I saw back then was bruised and swollen. He was also very thin, as if he would collapse if the wind blew. "He doesn't look like this portrait." Mother Su had seen this portrait before. It was pasted on the notice wall every day, but she had never seen it again after seeing it once. Firstly, she did not know the person on it. Secondly, she was not very literate and did not know what the words on the portrait meant. Therefore, she had never thought that this person might be someone she had seen before. Gu Yundong was enlightened. Yes, the portrait she drew was of her uncle in the old Gu family. He had definitely lost a lot of weight during his escape, but she did not know that his face was still swollen. He must have suffered a lot on the way to escape. Gu Yundong put the portrait aside and asked anxiously, "Aunt, when did you see him? Do you know where he is now?" "I saw him a few days after the city gate opened," Mother Su said. "At that time, one of my nieces came to look for me." "Gu Xiaoxi came with her, Xiaoxi." "Niece? My uncle was with your niece?" Mother Su nodded. "I have a distant cousin. Although we're separated by several levels, we often worked together when we were young. Our relationship is not bad. It's just that she later married into the Yongning Prefecture and got away from us. After she married over, she never visited us again. This time, my cousin died on the way because of the famine. Only my cousin-in-law and daughter, Xiaoxi, were left. Later, my cousin-in-law died too. I heard that it was to save your uncle. Before he died, he entrusted Xiaoxi to your uncle and even instructed them to come to the Xuanhe Prefecture to find my cousin's family. They must have suffered a lot along the way. When they arrived at the Xuanhe Prefecture, they were penniless and had been hungry for a few days. Fortunately, someone fed them porridge at the city gate at that time, so they survived. When the door of the new emperor's prefecture opened, Xiaoxi and your uncle entered the city gate and found my house. It should be the address my cousin gave Xiaoxi. When I saw them, your uncle's face was already bruised and swollen. I couldn't see his appearance clearly. Later, they rested at my house for half a day and told me what happened on the way to escape. That was when I found out your name. Your uncle said that he was looking for you. His eldest brother entrusted you to him, but he lost you. Along the way, he asked about your whereabouts and didn't know what to do. He said that if I heard your name, I should ask someone to send a letter to him. At that time, Uncle Gu was also in despair. Actually, when he said those words, Mother Su could tell that he no longer had any hope. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1086. Going to find him. It should be said that no one had any hope on such a chaotic escape route. An adult and 3 children. The adult was even a woman, and her behavior was like a child's, unable to make any correct judgment. Strictly speaking, this was the path of the strong preying on the weak. The 4 children struggled for as long as they could. Moreover, they only had about 10 small potatoes the size of quail eggs on them. They could not even last for 2 days. Who would think that they would survive? Hence, when Mother Su heard about it, she was already certain that the sister-in-law, nephew, and niece that Gu Xiaoxi mentioned had met with misfortune. She had never linked Gu Yundong to the escape. How could a penniless girl, who had fled from the Yongning Prefecture, have the ability to open such a huge shop in the prefectural city and do such a popular business in just a year? However, the truth was so coincidental. The Gu Yundong that Gu Xiaoxi was talking about was the Gu family's boss. Mother Su sighed. Later on, they had lunch at my house and asked if my family was still around. When they found out that her 2 biological uncles were in their hometown, they left. At that time, Mother Su wanted to let them stay for 2 days, but Xiaoxi rejected her. Firstly, the Su family's house was not big to begin with, and secondly, they were in a hurry to leave. Mother Su did not force her. After all, they had never met before. Her relationship with her cousin had also faded because of the 20 years between them. In addition, during that period of time, there were all kinds of crimes caused by refugees in the city. Mother Su was also worried. Therefore, she gave the 2 of them some money, told them the direction, and sent them out of the city gate. As they had not stayed in the Su family for long, Su Qing and Su Changshun, who had gone out to look for work, had never seen Xiaoxi and Gu Xiaoxi. However, when they came back, they heard Mother Su talk about this. Still, the person she talked about the most was her cousin from back then. She was also depressed about her cousin's death. When Gu Yundong heard everything, the ecstasy on her face grew. That's right, it was her uncle. After so long, there was finally a clue. Where are Miss Xiaoxi's uncles? Are they far from here? She couldn't wait to find her uncle. Father and eldest aunt would definitely be very happy when they heard this news. Mother Su said, Xiaoxi's uncle's house is in Great Rock Village under Heyuan County. Gu Yundong frowned slightly. Heyuan County? That was the county town furthest away from Xuanhe Prefecture. It would take them a day to get to Fengkai County by carriage, but it would take at least 2.5 days to go to Heyuan County. It was actually so far. No wonder there was no news even though the portrait had been hanging on the notice board for so long. Mother Su asked her, Are you going to look for him? Are you sure it's him? Gu Yundong nodded. I'm sure. It must be my uncle. There aren't so many coincidences in the world. The man fled from the Yongning Prefecture, and his name matches. He said that he would take care of us on behalf of my father. That's right. Mother Su exhaled. That's good, that's good. Annie, thank you so much. You don't know, but when we escaped from the famine back then, we were all separated. However, in the past 2 years, we've reunited one after another. Only my uncle is left. There's no news of him at all. My father and my eldest aunt have always missed him. During the New Year and holidays, they're always thinking about where he is now and whether he's living well. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1087. Coming to the door, Mother Su waved her hand and sighed. Boss Gu, don't say that. It's my fault for having a bad memory. If I had remembered earlier, you would have found him long ago. No, I'm already very grateful that you told me. If not for Auntie, we might not have been able to find him. Gu Yundong was really grateful to her. He was also extremely glad that he had listened to Zheng Gang's suggestion to invite Su Changshun to work at Gus. Otherwise, he would have missed Mother Su's message. Still, she thought about it and asked, "You just said that my uncle was saved by Xiaoxi's father and asked him to take care of Xiaoxi." "Then the two of them," Mother Su said, "even if her father didn't entrust her to him, the two of them, a man and a woman, had walked all the way here alone. They definitely want to be together." "I know." Gu Yundong nodded. Did that mean that she had a little aunt? Gu Yundong stood up. "No matter what, I have to thank you today. I have to go back quickly and tell my father and aunt the good news. I'll visit you another day to thank you." "No need, no need." Mother Su quickly waved her hand. But Gu Yundong had already walked out. "I'll take my leave first." She then instructed Su Qing, "Take good care of your mother. Bring her to the medical center to have her legs treated." "Got it, boss," Su Qing replied. She seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly chased after her. "Boss, are you going to the river? Do you know the address?" "I know. It's the third house to the innermost side. It's easy to find." With that, Gu Yundong disappeared from the door. Gu Yundong had just received great news. She was excited and walked at an exceptionally fast speed. Before long, they reached the river. At this moment, the local gang had arrived at Gu Daifeng's newly rented house half an hour earlier than her. Looking at the group of people who suddenly appeared, Gu Dafeng and the others were shocked. She subconsciously stood beside Bian Han. Shui Rong had been in a rich family for many years, so he knew how to read people's expressions. One look at this group of people and he knew that they definitely did not come with good intentions. He pushed the wheelchair over and let Bian Han sit down first, in case there was a conflict later and they accidentally pushed him over. Then, he slowly grabbed the broom in the corner and asked the group of people in front of him coldly, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Gu Dafeng also picked up a long bench and looked at the people opposite her with a dark expression. "This is our rented house now. Isn't it outrageous for you to come in without permission?" When the local boss saw their posture, he glanced at the cripple in the wheelchair and immediately laughed. "Don't be agitated, don't be agitated. Of course we know that this is the house you rented, and it's just rented. The monthly rent is 1 tael of silver. It's quite cheap, right?" Gu Dafeng frowned and looked at them. She suddenly understood. "Are you the local tyrants of Xingtao Street?" Yes, he had long heard that there was a gang of local tyrants on this street. The boss raised his eyebrows. "Oh, you've heard of us? That makes things easier." With a wave of his hand, a lackey brought a stool and placed it behind him. Boss sat down leisurely. "As for me, I won't waste my breath. Do you know why your rent is so cheap? Is it because of you?" "That's right, it's because of me. All the neighbors who live here know that this area is not safe. We often encounter theft. We are here to prevent such things from happening. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1088. Were reasonable people. Gu Dafeng and Shui Rong looked at each other and gripped the things in their hands even tighter. She turned around and said to Bian Han, "Stay further away later in case I hurt you." Bian Han also knew his own situation. Now was not the time to show off, so he nodded and whispered, "Be careful and try to stall for time until Yundong comes. Didn't they say that the local tyrant here is afraid of her? Let's use Yundong's name to scare them." Gu Dafeng thought for a moment. "But I don't think they're very smart. I'm afraid they won't believe me." As they spoke, the local boss was already impatient. "But what are you discussing? Let me tell you, it's useless no matter what you say. Anyway, you have to pay the protection fees. Don't say that you have a backer. If you have a backer, you won't come to Xingtao Street to rent a house. You won't have to bargain with the owner for just 0.2 taels of silver." Gu Dafeng, who was about to say that she had a backer, was speechless. "How could I accept this? Can't I rely on myself and be thrifty?" The boss continued, "I don't want much either. How about 1 tael of silver a month?" Gu Dafeng gasped. 1 tael of silver? Why don't you rob? Their rent was only 1 tael of silver, okay? We're all reasonable people. Why would we rob? That's the work of bandits. Don't say that I tricked you. You can ask around. The rent in the nearby streets and alleys is more than 2 taels of silver. This is the Prefectural city. This Xingtao street is not remote. The owner rented it for 1 tael of silver to you because he knew that you had to give us another tael of silver to protect you, right? Little Six and the other lackeys cheered from behind. Yes, boss is right. If you don't believe me, you can ask the people nearby if we're doing a good deed. Gu Dafeng and the other 2 were speechless. However, at this moment, a neighbor who was watching the commotion outside said, Yes, yes. Just give it to him. He'll be at peace after giving it to you. If you don't give it to me, you'll lose things in the future. Your things will also break. You rented this house for 1 tael of silver? That's really a huge bargain. It's reasonable to give 1 tael of silver to buy peace. Gu Dafeng and the other 2 were so angry that they almost fell to the ground. What kind of bargain was this? What did he mean by taking advantage? He actually believed the words of a local bully. He was simply crazy. Of course, there were also different voices. You can't say that. This courtyard is not big. 1 tael of silver is not a small amount. If you give them another tael, they will lose. Before he could finish speaking, a few local tyrants turned their heads in unison and sneered at him. The person who spoke turned pale. He quickly lowered his head and silently dodged to the back. There were also others who agreed with this point of view. At this moment, they did not dare to speak. These local tyrants said that they had collected protection money to protect them, but in fact, they had not done anything at all. They just did not steal. They did whatever they wanted. If someone accidentally bumped into them on the way, they would still beat them up. The boss finally lost his patience. He suddenly stood up and kicked the chair behind him away. He said to Gu Dafeng and the others, Hurry up. I still have to go back and push the cards. If you waste my time again, do you believe that I won't be able to sleep peacefully in the future? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1089. Gu Yundong is your niece? Gu Yundong had just walked to the door when she heard this familiar and arrogant voice. She frowned slightly and looked up at the people outside the 3rd house. After taking a few steps forward, Gu Yundong pushed aside the crowd of onlookers and immediately saw a group of familiar local tyrants. The corners of her mouth twitched. As expected of the local tyrants of Xingtao Street. She had just arrived at this unfamiliar place, but he was already here to extort money. Gu Dafeng, who was in the courtyard, had yet to see her. Her temper was not weak to begin with. When she heard the threat of this local tyrant, she immediately placed the bench in front of her chest and said angrily, You're quite capable. How are you going to make us not sleep peacefully? Do you know who I am? How dare you say this in front of me? Gu Yundong looked at Gu Dafeng in surprise and silently applauded her in his heart. Very good, it was this aura. She remembered that a long time ago, she seemed to have used these words to scare Zhou Dafu. However, the local tyrant was different from Zhou Da. The boss sized Gu Dafeng up from head to toe and laughed out loud. As he laughed, he said to the lackeys beside him, Did you hear what she said just now? She still thinks that she's the wife of a rich official. She's quite arrogant. Come, tell me who you are. You make us afraid too, The group of lackeys behind him also laughed loudly. Even the people outside the door who were watching the commotion laughed softly. Gu Dafeng gritted his teeth. You should know Gus, right? Gus. The laughter suddenly stopped. Whether it was the local boss or his lackeys, they all fell silent. Gu Dafeng secretly heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that they were indeed afraid of Yundong. However, the nervousness and retreat she expected did not come. Instead, she saw the boss' completely dark face and red eyes. A moment later, she heard his sneer. But, do you also want to say that you have a relationship with the owner of Gus? Are you going to tell me that she's your daughter and your niece, huh? Do I look so King stupid? Can any of you use Gus to fool me? Let me tell you, just now, I only wanted to take 1 tael of silver. Now, without 3 taels, you can forget about leaving this door today. The lackeys behind him immediately echoed, Yes, pay up. They were also very angry. Many people in Qingtao Street knew that they, the local tyrants, did not dare to provoke Gus. Because of the Su family and the Shi family that moved over a few months ago. Su Changshun of the Su family was working at Gus. The new kid called Zhuangzi was also a worker at Gus. The one called Jiang Bao was a shop assistant in Xiao's pharmacy. The local tyrants had suffered at the hands of Gu Yundong and Xiao Qingyuan, so they naturally did not dare to provoke their employees. Therefore, when they collected protection fees, they basically bypassed the two families. Even their neighbors were safe because of them. There was no lack of smart people in Qingtao Street. As time passed, many people could tell. Hence, one family imitated the Su family and the Shi family. When the boss came to ask for protection money, that family actually said that they had a good relationship with the shopkeeper of Gus and often drank together and called each other brothers. The local tyrant wasn't sure at that time and was really fooled. When he turned around to investigate, good lord, they actually dared to lie to him. This matter made boss furious. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1090, Boss Gu, you've heard wrong now. There was actually another family that used the name of Gus to bluff and scare them. Moreover, they were new. The local tyrants were afraid of Xiao Qingyuan and Gu Yundong, but that did not mean that they were easy to bully. Hence, the boss picked up the chair behind him and was about to smash it on the ground. Do you really King think we're easy to talk to? Stop! A shout suddenly came from behind. If you tell me to stop, the local tyrant sneered and turned his head, wanting to see who would dare to stop him at this time. However, halfway through his sentence, when he saw the appearance of the person, his voice suddenly stopped and his expression changed. He was not the only one. His lackeys also took a small step back and looked at Gu Yundong in horror. They had not forgotten that this woman looked young and thin, but she was King good at fighting. She could fight 10 people alone and could knock them down in an instant. There was also the maidservant beside her. She was stronger than the 3 men combined. But that servant girl didn't come today. Fortunately, she didn't come. Gu Yundong smiled and walked to the eldest son's side. She looked up at the bench that he was still holding and said, "Do you want to put it down first? If it's accidentally broken later, you'll have to pay 10 times the price." Boss was stunned. Little Six, who was beside him, was quick-witted. He quickly went forward to take the stool and carefully placed it on the ground. Gu Yundong nodded in satisfaction and looked at Little Six with admiration. Little Six could not help but puff out his chest, feeling a ray of light above his head. Gu Yundong then walked to Gu Daifeng's side. "Eldest aunt, how's the house? Have you rented it?" "Yes, it's rented. We all think it's not bad." Gu Yundong nodded. "Since it's not bad, let's stay here for now. If you think it's too small in the future, we can change it." As she spoke, she turned to look at the group of local tyrants who were already stunned. What did they just hear? Eldest aunt? Gus boss called this woman eldest aunt? The lackeys looked at their boss silently. Their boss was so amazing. He could even guess this. The boss, however, felt bitter. He had just said it casually, but who knew that his words would come true? Gu Yundong was really her niece. Was there something wrong? Her niece's family was so rich. Why did they come to Qingtao Street to rent a house? Was there water in their brains? The group of people was so shocked that they couldn't recover. It was Gu Yundong's voice that pulled them back. "I heard you say just now that you want to make my eldest aunt suffer?" "No. Absolutely not. You heard wrongly." The boss immediately shook his head, as if he was about to throw his head off. The other lackeys shook even more fiercely. The onlookers outside the door were shocked. Did these people have any integrity? They actually denied it so quickly and thoroughly. Who was this young lady? These local tyrants seemed to be afraid of her. They were even more afraid than when they saw the government officials. Gu Yundong frowned. "Did I hear wrongly? Then why did you raise the stool just now?" I was practicing arm strength. Yes, I suddenly feel that the weight of this stool is just right. It's suitable for arm strength. The lackey at the side echoed, "Yes, yes, yes. Boss Gu, you know that our boss right hand is not very strong. You know that. Boss Gu? The people at the door widen their eyes. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1091. Failing to extort only to be extorted. Could it be that this girl was the owner of Gus' shop? Was she that young? Moreover, the local tyrants were even more afraid of her than the rumors said. She was just a young lady. Could it be that they could not deal with her with so many people? The voices outside the courtyard rose and fell, and everyone started whispering. Some people's voices accidentally became louder and could even reach the ears of the boss. The boss snorted coldly in his heart. What did you people know? Although this girl looked young, she was very sinister. Not to mention how many times they had been beaten up. Just on the day of her shop's opening, she had deliberately lured old Master Zhou over and cheated him of so much money. It could be seen that this person was not easy to deal with. Moreover, she was not only the shopkeeper of Gus. She was also the fiancée of Boss Xiao, who had gone to the capital to meet the emperor and treat the prince. She was also the owner of the new tea pavilion shop with the wife of the Prefecture magistrate, the eldest daughter of the Nye family. They only dared to provoke such a person because they were tired of living, okay? Gu Yundong almost burst out laughing when she heard their reason. She restrained her expression and looked at their sincere eyes. She lowered her eyes and thought for a moment before saying, "So this stool is so important to you? In that case, take it away." All right. The boss hurriedly agreed. Unexpectedly, Gu Yundong said awkwardly, "But if you take this stool away, we'll lose one. What if the rest are not enough? We still have to buy it again. I wonder if this stool is cheap." The boss suddenly felt enlightened and immediately felt bitter in his heart. He said with a sullen face, "How can I let Boss Gu give it to me for free? Wouldn't that make me look bad? How about this? I'll buy this stool, okay? One. He gritted his teeth. How about 1 tael of silver? Hey, you're too polite. It's just a lousy stool. Why would I need a tael of silver? If I accept it, will others think that I'm bullying you? No. The boss hurriedly shook his head. As the old saying goes, the best things cannot be bought with money. Who asked this stool to be suitable for me? I insisted on buying it. Boss Gu didn't bully me at all. I'll be angry with whoever says that." Gu Yundong shook her head and sighed. "In that case, reluctantly accept it." She spread out her fair right hand with an innocent expression on her face. The boss was heartbroken. His hands trembled as he took out a tael of silver from his waist and placed it in her hand with difficulty. "Boss Gu, our deal is done. I'll go back first?" "All right, you can go back. Hey, remember, this is my eldest aunt and uncle. Since you both live on the same street, please help take care of them in the future." Definitely. The lackeys behind him also promised sincerely. Then, the group of people began to rush out of the courtyard. They did not even look back, as if they were afraid that someone would chase after them. After walking for a long time, the boss hit Little Six hard. "You son of a b***. Next time, find out more information before you come. If something like this happens again, I'll kick you into the river and drown you. Do you believe me?" With that, he stuffed the stool in his hand into Little X's arms and strode away. Gu Yundong, who was in the courtyard, threw away the silver in his hand and turned to hand it to Gu Dafeng. "Eldest aunt, keep it well and buy a better stool. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1092. Eldest aunt, uncle has been found. Gu Dafeng didn't decline. She put down the stool in her hand and said with a smile, "Fortunately, you came early. These local tyrants are too evil. Come, let me show you our new rented house." As she spoke, she wanted to pull Gu Yundong inside. Unexpectedly, just as she moved her feet, Gu Yundong pulled her back. "Eldest aunt, there's no hurry to look at the house. I have good news for you." She had a happy and excited smile on her face, and she almost lost control of her grip on Gu Dafeng. Gu Dafeng was a little surprised to see his niece lose control. "What good news makes you happy?" "I have news of youngest uncle. Gu Yundong laughed and dropped a bomb. This news shocked Gu Dafeng so much that her eyes widened in shock. Even Shui Rong, who was about to close the courtyard door, stopped in surprise. Bian Han stood up immediately, his face full of excitement. After a while, Gu Dafeng came back to her senses. After confirming that she hadn't heard wrongly, she immediately asked anxiously, "What did you say?" There's news of your uncle." "Really?" "It's true. I know where he lives. Let's go home first and tell my father the good news. Then, we'll bring uncle back to reunite with his family." Gu Dafeng nodded repeatedly. Yes. Let's go back first." She could not be bothered to ask about Gu Xiaoxi's current situation and where Gu Yundong had gotten the news. All these were no longer important. Anyway, she had news of her younger brother and they would be able to meet soon. That was enough. Gu Dafeng turned around and pushed Bian Han's wheelchair, asking him to sit down quickly and go home first. However, when they reached the door, they realized that the people who had been watching the commotion had not left. They looked at this group of people curiously. Most of their gazes were focused on Gu Yundong. They were both curious and nervous about this little girl. However, they were different from those local tyrants. Without experiencing Gu Yundong's methods, they were not scared. Shui Rong frowned and said to the onlookers, make way first. We're going out." All of them moved slightly to the side, but the distance was still not enough for the wheelchair to pass. Gu Yundong frowned and said coldly, "Move aside." Her face darkened. She still had some dignity. Everyone hurriedly retreated and let her walk out. Shui Rong locked the door and the group left in a hurry. Gu Yundong turned to look at these people and secretly shook her head. She had heard many onlookers persuade Gu Dafeng to pay the protection fee. The local tyrant of Xingtao Street was also a rare feature of this place. Gu Yundong had asked around before. Why didn't the bailiffs come to deal with this group of people? It couldn't be that no one reported it to the authorities, right? Of course, there were people who reported it, but not many. Some bailiffs came to catch the local tyrants a few times, but they were quickly released. The reason was that the people in Xingtao Street were not united. These local tyrants were very interesting. Every family paid protection fees, but for local residents, they paid less. It was within their tolerance. In addition, they had always lived on this street. If they reported it to the officials, these local tyrants would take revenge later. Therefore, they could only endure it. After all, the protection fee was not much. However, for outsiders who came to Xingtao Street to rent a house, the protection fee was much higher. For example, Eldest Aunt Gus' rent was 1 tael of silver. The gangsters would ask them to replenish the rest according to the market price. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1093. Go find Uncle now. Look, it was also within everyone's tolerance. Otherwise, if you don't want to rent here, go somewhere else. The rent is still so much or even more. The local residents would even help persuade those who did not pay protection fees. After all, they had already paid. Why should these foreigners not pay? To put it bluntly, they felt unbalanced. As a result, these local tyrants were like fish in water in this area, earning a lot of money. Of course, there were also those with a strong temper. If the local tyrants could provoke such people, they would. If they couldn't, they would pretend not to see them. Gu Yundong felt that these people were both smart and stupid. However, these were the survival methods of this street. She could not care less. As long as these people didn't offend her, it was fine. The 4 of them hurriedly walked to the place where the carriage was parked and quickly went up. It was not until the carriage began to move forward that Gu Dafeng calmed down and asked Gu Yundong, "How did you find out information about your uncle? Where is he? Is he far from us? When are we going to pick him up?" Gu Yundong knew that she was anxious and did not hide it. She replied with a smile, "It was Auntie Sue who told me." She had seen Uncle before, but she did not expect me to be related to him. It was only when she heard that we had also escaped from the Yongning Prefecture that she immediately connected the dots. That's why she asked Su Qing to quickly fetch me and tell me about Uncle. She told Gu Dafeng everything that Mother Su had said in detail. Gu Dafeng was overjoyed. It's good that he's alive. As long as he's alive, nothing else matters. Previously, she had been trying her best to tell herself that it was good news that there was no news of Gu Xiaoxi. However, she often mentally prepared herself. Gu Xiaoxi might not have survived that famine and was gone. Now that she knew that he had come to the Xuanhe Prefecture safely, she was relieved. As long as he survived that famine, Gu Dafeng believed that he would definitely still be alive. After Gu Yundong finished speaking, the carriage had already arrived at the entrance of the small courtyard. Gu Dafeng hurriedly got out of the carriage. She didn't even care about her husband and rushed into the courtyard. Gu Dajiang was walking out of the door. "You're back? Have you found a house?" "It's just as well. I found someone to calculate the date. Take a look and see which date is the best for Yundong's wedding. In my opinion, next year." None of this is important. Let me tell you a piece of good news." Gu Dajiang glared at her. "Why isn't my daughter's wedding important? Even if you're my sister, you're not allowed to say that." Gu Dafeng was stunned and hurriedly slapped her mouth. She hadn't paid attention to what Head said just now, and she couldn't wait to interrupt. Yes. The news of Yundong's wedding is very important. However, we have to discuss this matter slowly and ask for the couple's opinion. There's still a piece of joyous news I want to tell you. There's news about Xiaoxi." Gu Dajiang froze. You just said." Gu Dafeng nodded repeatedly and pulled him into the central room. Then she told him everything she had heard from Gu Yundong. Gu Yundong came in a step behind and happened to hear it. Although Eldest aunt had exaggerated some of the details and expressed some of the meaning wrongly, the rest were basically in line. Gu Dajiang laughed out loud when he heard that, causing the children to run over. Then she heard him say anxiously, "Let's go find Xiaoxi now. Let's go now. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1094. How to go. Gu Dajiang was so excited that he was incoherent. His eyes narrowed. Gu Dafeng was also extremely excited. She grabbed his hand and nodded repeatedly. "Yes, let's go find him now. That's really great. I knew it. Why is it that those people from the Gu family are still safe and sound, but something happened to little brother? The heavens are really blessing us. Let's go and get ready to pick them up." The siblings were in a hurry. When Heyuan entered, he saw them holding hands as they entered the house. He looked at Gu Yundong in confusion. He had come today to discuss the wedding date. Yesterday, his father-in-law had finally agreed to their marriage this year. To make sure that nothing goes wrong, it was better for him to come and keep an eye on them. She went to the Million Gold Pavilion in the morning and then went straight to the Gu family. In any case, there was no need to keep an eye on the Million Gold Pavilion anymore. He would go up and make a trip in the afternoon. In Gu Yundong's words, it was fine as long as he clocked in from work. What happened? Xiaoxi walked to Gu Yundong's side and asked softly. Gu Yundong patiently repeated the matter. Xiaoxi widened his eyes in surprise. "There's actually news?" He paused and asked, "Do you know how to get there?" "Oh right, I'll go and take out the map first," Gu Yundong said softly. A map was not allowed to be hidden among the commoners, but Gu Yundong had it. She had asked Qin Wenzheng for it. To her, to understand a town, she had to at least know the location and direction of various places. She was a businesswoman, so how could she not have a map? Moreover, what she wanted was only the general map of Xuanhe Prefecture. She could just quietly keep it. She brought Xiaoxi into the house and pulled the energetic Gu Dafeng and Gu Dajiang over. Gu Yundong knew how long it would take to go to Heyuan County, but she did not know which towns they would pass along the way and how far Great Rock Village was from Heyuan County. The four of them sat in the study and looked at the map in front of them as they discussed. Why is Heyuan County so far away? There are too many mountains around. It's too inconvenient to circle around. Gu Dafeng was the first to frown. She had never seen a map before. This was the first time. It looked quite close on the map, but when Gu Yundong explained, she was stunned. This palm-sized distance actually took so long? Gu Dajiang sighed. There's no choice. Heyuan County is relatively poor. There's only one main road to the county city. The main road has a detour. If we take a shortcut, we'll have to cross at least 2 mountains. It won't be easy. He was considered half an elementary scholar, so he had some understanding of the county cities under the Xuanhe Prefecture. The reason why Heyuan County was poor was because the roads were not smooth. No one was willing to go. Yundong had a good saying. If you wanted to get rich, you had to build a road first. It was true. Gu Daifeng's heart ached. When our brother went to Heyuan County back then, I'm afraid his legs were about to break. Gu Yundong was speechless. Eldest aunt, he had already escaped from the famine. Are you still afraid of this little journey? The few of them familiarized themselves with the situation on the way from Xuanhe Prefecture to Heyuan County. They considered which towns they needed to pass and which roads were safer. As for the route from Heyuan County to Great Rock Village, they could only talk about it when they reached the county city. The village was too small and could not be displayed on the map. However, when they were considering who would go to Heyuan County, their opinions differed. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1095. Treating uncle badly. Eldest Aunt Gu felt that she had to go. How could she miss out on picking up her younger brother? Gu Dajiang felt that he was the eldest brother. Now that they had left the Gu family, he had the responsibility to take care of his younger brother and find him. Xiaoxi felt that he was about to become a member of the Gu family, so he naturally couldn't miss this opportunity to gain favor. Gu Yundong was speechless. What were these people doing? The few of them had different opinions. In the end, Gu Dafeng suddenly clapped his hands. Why don't we all go? Bring sister-in-law and the children and give me a surprise. Gu Yundong looked up at the sky. Eldest aunt, we're going to pick her up. The sooner the better. Won't it be a vacation if everyone goes there? Even the kids? Eldest aunt, what exactly are you thinking? Why don't Yundong and I go? We can speed up and shorten the journey, Xiaoxi suggested. Gu Dajiang immediately denied it. No, although you're about to get married, you're not married yet. What will happen if a man and woman go out alone? Besides, my daughter is a girl and has a delicate body. How can you speed up? She's not your daughter, and you don't feel sorry for her, right? We're in a hurry to find her uncle, but we're not in such a hurry. Xiaoxi understood that his father-in-law was very resentful of him. But speaking of which, ever since Gu Dajiang returned, he had indeed never gone on a long trip with Yundong under their noses. At most, he would return to Feng County from the prefectural city, but that would only take a day. There was no problem of sleeping outside. When Gu Dajiang saw that he was silent, he knew that he must be feeling guilty. He snorted coldly and said, "How about this? Sis, don't go. Brother-in-law hasn't recovered yet. Your house has just been rented and you still have to clean and move. It's rare for Yuanji to come to the prefectural city. Spend more time with him. Besides, it's a long journey to Heyuan County. It's too tiring." Gu Dafeng wanted to refute, but Gu Dajiang was right. It was mainly because she was old now. If she went, she might even drag her down. Father, you don't have to go either. Gu Yundong agreed with Xiaoxi. You still have to participate in the court examination in a few months. Studying at home is more important. Besides, you are indispensable at home. If we all go, who will take care of mother and brother and sister? Gu Dajiang frowned. That was true. He couldn't leave this family behind. He was worried. He couldn't help but glance at Xiaoxi. He didn't want the couple to go, but he couldn't let Yundong go alone. That would make him even more worried. Xiaoxi could go alone, but Xiaoxi didn't know him. What if he treated him as a bad person? Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he said in surprise, "Qingyan and I will go. Yundong, you'll stay at home." Yes, this was the best of both worlds. Yundong did not need to sleep in the open and she was the backbone of the family. He could rest assured that she was at home. Xiaoxi was speechless. No, I refuse. It was obvious what kind of hell it would be when he went out with his father-in-law. He thought quickly. After a moment, he frowned and said with a troubled expression, "I'm fine with it, but what? Could it be that this guy would suffer if he went with Gu Dajiang?" Gu Dajiang, was a preparation scholar with arms and legs. He was very strong and didn't need him to serve him. What was there to be unhappy about? But I don't think it's good for Uncle. Dajiang frowned. What do you mean? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1096. Father, wake up. Xiao Qingyan said, I heard from Yundong that when Auntie Su saw a younger uncle, he was not in good spirits and looked depressed. Other than the pain he suffered on the way to escape, the bigger reason should be that he was very uneasy and guilty about losing Yundong and the others. Dajiang pursed his lips and fell silent. Xiao Qingyan continued, Uncle must have felt that he had let Uncle down and felt even more ashamed to see you. So I think that what he actually wanted to see the most might be Yundong and Auntie. If he knew that Yundong was still alive, he would definitely be very happy and surprised. Hence, Yundong's visit will be the greatest comfort for Uncle. If Uncle goes, younger Uncle will probably feel pain and discomfort the moment he sees you. He will feel sorry for you. He will be worried that you will blame him and find him to settle scores with him. He will ask him about Auntie and the others' whereabouts. At that time, he will probably want to die to apologize. Daifeng's heart skipped a beat when she heard that. She quickly pulled Dajiang back and said, Yes. Qingyuan makes sense. It's best if you don't go. Otherwise, what if you scare him and make him apologize with his life? Dajiang was speechless. Couldn't he explain? Was his mouth in vain? Xiao Qingyuan said, Of course, we can also explain. Tell him that Yundong and the others are safe and sound so that he doesn't have to blame himself. But Uncle will think that we're comforting him. Before he sees the others, he will definitely be in a panic and disbelief. Instead of that, why don't we let Uncle see Yundong safe and sound from the beginning? Yundong put her hand behind her back and silently gave a thumbs up. Dajiang had to admit that what he said made a little sense. He wanted to surprise Xiaoxi, not give him a fright. He glared at Xiao Qingyuan. Forget it. They were about to get married anyway. If he stopped them, he would look like an evil person. Alright, then you guys go. There's no need to ride fast. Take the carriage. The most important thing is safety. After a pause, he still said, Let Xiaowen accompany you. With a third person around, it couldn't be considered a man and woman alone, right? If Yundong knew what he was thinking, she would probably say that he was deceiving himself. Xiaowen was Brother Xiao's man. Father, wake up. The matter was settled just like that. Although Dajiang was a little dissatisfied, he was still very excited to help pack his things when he thought about how he was about to meet his younger brother. Afraid that Yundong would be cold and hungry, he personally carried 3 blankets into the carriage and instructed Xiao Qingyuan, The 3 of you, each for 1, understand? Xiao Qingyuan nodded obediently. He went back to apply for leave from the Prefecture magistrate. Since he was going to Heyuan County, he could not go to the Million Gold Pavilion. The Prefecture magistrate glared at him unhappily. He had just returned to Yongfu village some time ago, and now he had to go to Heyuan County, which was so far away. Although he was looking for Yundong's uncle, there was no need for him to do it himself, right? Could his fiancée's family be more important than the emperor's decree? However, although he was unhappy, Heyuan County was far away. He still wrote a letter for Xiao Qingyuan. If you encounter any trouble, go to the local county magistrate. This letter proves your identity. After all, you're an imperial physician sent by the emperor. However, you and Yundong are both capable people. This letter might not be useful. Thank you. Xiao Qingyuan put the letter away. He wouldn't use it if he could. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. Hopefully, everything would go smoothly. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1097. Such a surprising operation? Yundong was almost done with her preparations. She did not have many things, and the most important ones were in her space. There were only a few sets of clothes in the carriage. Just in case, she even stuffed the pots and bowls under the carriage frame. After preparing, the 3 of them set off early the next morning despite the reluctance of Dajiang and the others. You must bring your uncle back. Remember to tell him that everything is fine at home. After I pass the preparation scholar exam, I'll be an elementary scholar soon. You're about to get married too. Tell him to come back. Yes. Just say that his brother and sister are waiting for him in the Xuanhe Prefecture. He's the only one who hasn't returned. We're all very worried. Our family will be reunited once he comes back. Got it. Gu Yundong waved her hand. Seeing that Gu Dajiang was about to reach the alley end, Xiao Qingyuan hurriedly gave Xiaowen a look, and the carriage instantly sped up. The carriage drove all the way to the city gate. Heyuan County and Feng County were two different directions, so the moment they left the city gate, the carriage turned around. Gu Yundong was laying out the blanket. She planned to find a comfortable position for herself to lean against and rest. The carriage suddenly came to a stop. Gu Yundong was stunned. What's wrong? I have something to tell you, Xiao Qingyuan said as he reached out and pulled a bag over. Gu Yundong recognized that it was Xiaowen's bag. She was stunned and blinked in confusion. Xiao Qingyuan had already pulled open the curtain and said to Xiaowen, who had jumped out of the carriage, "Stay in the manor for a few days. Help me see how the fruits and herbs are growing. I'll give you a few days off. Don't return to the city yet." "I know. Have a safe trip, young master." Gu Yundong? Gu Yundong. She was stunned. There was actually such a thing? "Father, didn't I tell you to wake up? What's the use of letting Xiaowen follow you?" Xiaowen took the bag and waved at Gu Yundong. "Then I'll leave first. Be careful, young master and Mississippi." Gu Yundong watched helplessly as he approached the manor outside the city. She turned to look at Xiao Qingyuan in a daze. After a moment of silence, she nodded. "Impressive." Xiao Qingyuan turned around and said with a serious expression, "I'm doing this for everyone's sake. You've seen the map. If there's no coincidence along the way, we might have to sleep in the wilderness. We only have this carriage. If Xiaowen is around, the carriage won't be enough for us to sleep." The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. "I don't believe you." She reached out and pushed him out. All right. Since he's already gone, I won't pull him back. Then hurry up and ride. I'll rest for a while. Yes, whatever my wife says. Xiao Qingyuan obediently sat on the shaft of the carriage, and the carriage started moving again. Gu Yundong shrank back into the carriage and covered her face with her hands. "Bastard, what wife? We're not married yet, so why are you shouting?" He knew that now that there were only the two of them left, he would start to be indecent. However, to be honest, with just the two of them around, it was indeed much more relaxed. Xiao Qingyuan must have gotten some benefits last time. At that time, he had brought Dai Wenhua into the mountains. In the end, when they returned, Dai Wenhua and the other two had left first, leaving the two of them to return to the county city slowly. Xiao Qingyuan was visibly happy and excited along the way. Now, he was taking drastic measures. He was amazing. However, what was even more impressive was that Xiao Qingyuan's words made sense. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1098. Meeting Gao Feng again. Sure enough, Gu Yundong and Xiao Qingyuan did not make it to the village. At night, they slept in the wilderness. Fortunately, both of them were experienced. They found a refreshing river and stopped the carriage. The sky was not completely dark yet. Xiao Qingyuan took a look, picked up the bow and arrow hanging behind the car, and said, "I'll go to the forest over there to see if there's anything to eat. If anything happens, just shout." "Okay, go ahead." Gu Yundong waved her hand to reassure him. Xiao Qingyuan first picked up some dry branches nearby, then took the precious bow and arrow she had given him into the forest. Gu Yundong took out the pot under the carriage and used the stones by the river to build a small platform. Then he washed the pot. First, he lit a fire and boiled water. Then he stared at the river. After staring at it for a long time, he felt a little regretful. The water here was too shallow. There were only small fish swimming around. The largest was only the length of a finger. It was not even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. She sighed and gave up. Not long after, Xiao Qingyuan returned with a wild rabbit in his hand. However, Gu Yundong's sharp eyes saw that his sleeve had been cut. Moreover, the opening was neat and did not look like it was hooked by a tree branch. She stood up abruptly. What happened? Did someone cause you trouble? It's nothing. It's just a misunderstanding. When I shot this rabbit just now, someone happened to flash past and the arrow almost hit him. That person thought that I wanted to kill him, so he came over with his sword and fought with me. Don't worry, I explained it very quickly. Look, I'm not injured. Although he said that he was not injured, Gu Yundong was still worried. She pulled him around 2 or 3 times before confirming that he was indeed safe and sound. However, her brows were still furrowed. Why is that person so impulsive? What's his name? The next time I meet him, I'll definitely settle scores with him. His name is Gao Feng. He was just in a hurry. We had a good chat. Gao Feng? Gu Yundong was suddenly stunned. She thought for a moment and asked him, You said that the person's name is Gao Feng? Is he tall and big with thick eyebrows and big eyes? Does he look very difficult to get along with? Is his mouth a little thin and the sword sheath in his hand white? Heyuan was surprised. You know him? He's indeed like that. Gu Yundong felt that this was really fate. I do know them. When I was escaping from the famine, I met 2 animals who committed inhuman crimes. I thought they were going to harm my younger siblings and wanted to get rid of them. I didn't expect them to take a fancy to Gao Feng and the others. At that time, we worked together to get rid of those 2 people. And Dajiang is also familiar with Gao Feng. In fact, Gu Yundong rarely talked about her escape, but Heyuan knew that it must have been an extremely difficult and heartbreaking journey. He wanted to know, but he didn't want her to remember these bad things, so he never asked. Only now did she understand that Gao Feng actually had such a relationship with her. He even gave Yundong and his family a bag of dry food. In that case, he has done you a favor. If I had known earlier, I would have given this rabbit to him as a repayment. Gu Yundong had a strange look on his face. Was there a favor? Yes, there should be. She coughed lightly and quickly changed the topic. He looks quite vigilant. I didn't expect you to hit it off at first sight. He even told you his name. Did he say where he was going? He said he's going to the Xuanhe Prefecture to look for someone. Looking for someone? Gu Yundong remembered that Dajiang had also mentioned that Gao Feng seemed to be looking for someone in a hurry. How long had it been? He still hadn't found the target? The person he was looking for was too well hidden. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1099. Arriving at Heyuan County, Gu Yundong thought that this person should be very important to Gao Feng. Unfortunately, in this era where communication was inconvenient, it was too difficult to find someone. Fortunately, the people she was looking for already had clues. Heyuan cooked the rabbit before the 2 of them finished eating and fell asleep. They were in the suburbs after all. Gu Yundong slept in the carriage while Heyuan kept watch outside. The next day, he entered the carriage to rest while Gu Yundong rode. 2 days later, the 2 of them finally arrived at Heyuan County. Heyuan County was too far from the prefectural city. Although it was lively during the day, it was still much behind Feng County. The houses on both sides of the road were very old, and there were many beggars on the street. All of them were staring at them eagerly. Gu Yundong and Heyuan were expressionless and looked straight ahead. They walked all the way to a good-looking inn in the county. They planned to rest here for the night and ask about the situation in Great Rock Village before picking up her uncle tomorrow morning. Although Mother Sue was married from Great Rock Village, she lived too far away after all. She had only gone back a year or 2 ago. After that, when her only relative in her family, her father, passed away in an accident, she went back to offer incense 4 years ago and did not come back again. Mother Sue's mother only had 1 daughter, so her father had once adopted a child in the family. However, that child was an ingrate who sowed discord between Mother Sue and her father. In short, their relationship was very bad. That was why Mother Sue had married so far away. After her father died, she would pretend that she did not have this family. Mother Sue was not very clear about the current situation in Great Rock Village. 4 years ago, when she went back to offer incense, she did not stay for long. However, she saw that Xiaoxi's two uncles were indeed still alive. As for the current situation, Gu Yundong could only find out for himself. When the two of them arrived at the inn, they first asked Great Rock Village. Coincidentally, one of the employees of the inn was from the village next door to Great Rock Village. Although they were separated by 3 villages, he knew Great Rock Village very well. According to the shop assistant, Great Rock Village could be considered a large village. 100 years ago, it was formed by the merger of 2 villages. Therefore, this village mainly had 2 surnames, namely the Chang family and the Zhou family. Of course, there were also some villagers with scattered surnames who had moved here from other places. For example, there were 4 to 5 families living in Great Rock Village since 2 years ago. However, compared to Chang and Zhou, they did not have much say in the village. They only had to live their own lives. The 2 clans had about the same number of people in the village and could be considered evenly matched. When they first merged, they could be considered to be living in peace with each other. Occasionally, there would be intermarriage. However, more than 10 years ago, the 2 clans suddenly fell out. The waiter did not know the exact reason. In short, the 2 clans ignored each other and prohibited intermarriage. From time to time, they would secretly cause trouble for each other and often hit each other when they were down. Fortunately, although there were conflicts between them, it was not to the extent of killing someone. In short, they maintained a very delicate balance. However, in the past year, this balance gradually began to collapse. The 2 races began to attack each other. They were like fire and water, wishing they could chase the other clan out of Great Rock Village. Xiaoxi's uncle's family was surnamed Zhou. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1100. Strange Great Rock Village. Gu Yundong could not help but frown when she heard the news. Gu Yundong did not know how her uncle was doing in Great Rock Village. Heyuan County was too far away, and her uncle did not even have any relatives. Especially in a situation where half the village was filled with people of the same clan, it was very easy for him to be wronged. When the time came, he would not even have anyone to talk to. Just look at Gu Village back then. Her father could not even split up the family, especially since uncle was an outsider to them. Most importantly, the Chang clan and the Zhou clan had a bad relationship now. What if uncle was implicated in the future? Therefore, Gu Yundong wanted to move youngest Uncle Gus' household register to Yongfu Village. However, she did not know who the chief of Great Rock Village was, whether it was the Chang family or the Zhou family. Would they make things difficult for them? When the waiter heard her ask about the village chief, he quickly said, "The village chief of Great Rock Village is not surnamed Zhou or Chang. He's an old man with the surname Su and is from another city." Back then, no one from the Zhou clan or the Chang clan was willing to let someone from the 2 clans be the village chief. This benefited him. However, this village chief Su is only in name. He can't control the Zhou clan or the Chang clan. Other than when the county office has an announcement or if they need him for something, he's not very useful. When Gu Yundong heard this, she was slightly relieved. The next morning, she went to Great Rock Village with Xiaoxi. Fortunately, Great Rock Village was not too far away. When they arrived, it was just noon. As they had heard from the shop assistant about the situation in Great Rock Village the day before, the 2 of them could not help but be more cautious when they visited. When they arrived at the entrance of Great Rock Village, they got off the carriage and asked the coachman hired from the county city to help take care of it. Then, they walked into the village. Compared to Yongfu Village, Great Rock Village was a little bigger. However, the road was not too flat, and the houses were shorter and older. That made sense. The 2 clans had fought for many years and were not united. It would be strange if the village was good. It would be much happier to have an old village chief in Yongfu Village who was dedicated to the benefits of the villagers and worked hard for them. The 2 of them walked and looked around. They passed by 3 to 4 houses, but they did not see a single person. Where did everyone in this village go? Moreover, it should be lunchtime, but the chimneys of these houses were not showing smoke. The 2 of them looked at each other and quickened their pace. Fortunately, they soon saw a figure. 2 people walked over. They were 2 women, one old and the other young. The old woman's face darkened. As she walked, she scolded the young woman, who should be her daughter-in-law. Then why did you join in the fun about the Chang and Zhou families? Do you think our family's life in the village is too peaceful? You still go out at this hour and don't even cook lunch at home. How can I have a daughter-in-law like you? You'll get your boss to teach you a lesson later. The young wife looked aggrieved. She lowered her head and quickened her pace. Soon she ran into a courtyard. Seeing that the old woman was about to enter, Gu Yundong hurriedly took a few steps forward and asked, "Aunt, may I ask how to get to Zhou Jingwe's house?" Zhou Jingge was the uncle of Xiaoxi that Mother Su had mentioned. He should be the head of the family now. The old woman stopped in her tracks and looked up at Gu Yundong and his wife in surprise. "Who are you?" "We heard that Zhou Jingge is familiar with the mountain roads. My husband wants to go into the mountains to hunt, so we want to hire him to lead the way for us and ask some questions. Please point us in the right direction. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible."